Mansa Musa, the richest ever. Can you even imagine what it means to be truly, unbelievably rich? Not just a millionaire or a billionaire, but so wealthy your riches can't even be accurately counted. It's a mind-boggling thought. Back in the 1300s, there lived a man named Mansa Musa. He ruled a huge empire in West Africa called the Mali Empire. Here's what I found. Many historians believe he was the wealthiest person to ever walk the earth. His kingdom was built on vast gold mines, so much so that gold was almost like dirt beneath their feet. He had more gold than anyone could possibly picture today. But here's the problem. How do you measure wealth that massive, from so long ago? Money today works differently. The things we value change over time. It's like trying to hold onto water in your hands. You know it's there, but it's hard to really get a firm grasp on the total amount. We just can't put a precise number on it. During a famous pilgrimage to Mecca, a holy journey, Mansa Musa showed his incredible fortune. He gave away so much gold that he actually lowered its value in the cities he passed through. He made gold cheaper just by being generous. Think about that for a second. It means he had an unbelievable amount of gold to spare, enough to truly shock the world. Imagine if your favorite famous person, maybe a huge social media star, was so rich they could buy every single new video game, every fancy phone, every cool gadget released this year. And then, they decided to give away millions of those things. So many that everyone suddenly had one, and they weren't quite as special anymore. That's a little bit like what Mansa Musa did with gold. But on a scale we can barely comprehend. So, was Mansa Musa the richest ever? Maybe, but here's the thing. His golden empire eventually faded. The gold itself, for all its shine, couldn't last forever in the same way. What truly lasts are the stories, the history, and the way his actions affected people and places long after the gold was gone. Perhaps real richness isn't just about what you own, but about the impact you leave behind. Imagine billions, but way back when. Have you ever stopped to really think about what $1 billion means? It's a huge number, right? So much money. But here's the thing. Imagining that kind of wealth, or even way more, hundreds or thousands of years ago, is really, really hard. It's like trying to picture a rainbow without ever seeing colors. Money back then wasn't just different amounts. It was different power. When we talk about the richest people in history, we can't just look at a number on a page. A king in ancient Egypt didn't have a bank account with billions, but he owned all the land, all the gold, all the grain, basically everything. His power stretched over millions, and that's why it matters. The value of things changes with time. A single coin centuries ago could buy a whole feast. Today, it might not even buy gum. Don't think of it like this. Imagine you have a special battery. Today, it could power your phone for a year. That's useful. But 500 years ago, that same battery could keep an entire village warm all winter, saving lives. The battery itself is the same, but its impact, its real worth, feels so much bigger, so much deeper back then, because the needs were different, the resources scarcer. So, when we try to count the wealth of people like emperors or ancient traders, we're not just adding up cash, we're trying to measure their entire world, their control over resources, people, and empires. It's about the power they held, what they could command, and that makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is true wealth just about having a lot of stuff, or is it about the deep impact you have, the lives you touch, and the world you shape, no matter the time? It's a quiet thought, but one worth holding on to. How we figure out who is really rich. Have you ever truly thought about what rich means? Is it just money, or something deeper? When we look back at history, figuring out the richest people isn't simple. We can't just check old bank accounts. Imagine comparing someone from 1,000 years ago to a person today. Their worlds were so different. An ancient king owned vast lands and controlled many people. A modern billionaire owns huge companies worldwide. How do we fairly compare their wealth? Here's the thing. Money's power changes. What a dollar bought in the past is not what it buys now. We adjust for this called inflation, so values make sense across different times. But it's deeper than numbers. We also consider what control and resources meant then. Imagine being the only one with fresh water in a dry desert village. Your wealth isn't just the water. It's the huge power you hold over everyone needing it to survive. You control their very lives. That kind of wealth has no simple price tag. Think of it this way. If you're the only one in your group who knows a secret, valuable skill, you have a kind of wealth. You control something important. For historical figures, wealth often meant land, food, armies, or rare goods. It was truly about power. They could build empires, feed nations, or lead great change. So, when we talk about history's richest, we aren't just counting gold. We're trying to grasp their true impact, their control, and how deeply they shaped their world. It makes you feel the real weight of their lives, how their choices echoed through time. It shows us that true value isn't just about what you own. It's about the profound human story of power, influence, and the lasting mark we leave. Augustus Caesar, Rome's top dog. Have you ever thought about what it means to be truly, unbelievably rich? Not just having a lot of money, but being so tied to the source of wealth that it's almost impossible to separate you from it. That's Augustus Caesar. He wasn't just Rome's first emperor. He was, in many ways, Rome itself. His personal fortune and the wealth of the vast Roman Empire were deeply, deeply connected. It's a concept that feels heavy, doesn't it? Here's the thing. After years of brutal civil wars, Augustus, originally Octavian, took charge. He rebuilt a broken world, bringing Rome peace, the Pax Romana. To do this, he controlled almost everything. The states, lands, the army, all the taxes. Think of it this way. Imagine if the person who owned your favorite gaming company also owned the internet service provider, and the company that made your computer. And then, they also owned the land your house was on, and the store where you bought your snacks. It's like their personal finances and the entire system are one and the same. Augustus wasn't just rich, he was the source of wealth. In a way, the empire's resources, its gold, grain, and power flowed through his hands. This wasn't just for lavish living. It was about absolute control, about shaping the world with every choice. He decided where roads went, where armies marched, how millions lived. This kind of power, this kind of wealth, is almost impossible to imagine now. It wasn't just his bank account, it was the very fabric of life for so many. When you think about someone holding that much, it makes you wonder, did it feel like freedom, or like a heavy, unending responsibility, to be the center of such an enormous world? To have the future of so many resting on your choices, it must have been a unique kind of weight. It shows us that wealth, especially on that scale, isn't just about what you can buy, it's about what you become, and the lasting marks you leave on history. When gold was the only money, have you ever thought about what money truly is? Not just the paper in your pocket, but the idea of it. Imagine a time when money wasn't just paper or numbers on a screen. It was heavy, it was shining, it was gold. In those days, gold wasn't just pretty to look at, it was the heart of everything. If you wanted to buy food, land, or even freedom, you needed gold. Every coin held real value because gold itself is rare and beautiful. It doesn't rust, it doesn't fade. It was like the sun captured in a solid form, a lasting piece in a changing world. People trusted gold because it was always there, always valuable, everywhere. Think of it like this, you and your friends are trading rare collector cards. A super rare, shiny card everyone wants. That's gold. It holds its value because it's hard to find and everyone agrees it's special. It's not just a piece of cardboard. It carries the weight of shared desire. Our ancestors felt that weight every day. Farmers selling harvests, craftsmen their goods. They weren't just trading items. They were exchanging pieces of this ancient, glowing metal. This way of life wasn't just about wealth. It was about trust, built on something physical and real. It linked people across vast distances and generations. It reminds us that even today, deep down, we crave something solid, something we can trust. The shimmer of gold was more than metal. It was a quiet promise, and that's why understanding this old way matters. It tells us about what we value, even now. The story of a king who owned a ton of salt. Have you ever really thought about salt? Not just the shaker on your kitchen table, but what if salt was as valuable as gold? Imagine a king whose power came not from huge piles of jewels, but from controlling every grain of salt. It sounds strange, right? But long ago, in many parts of the world, salt wasn't just a seasoning, it was life itself. Here's the thing, before refrigerators, people couldn't keep food from spoiling. Meat, fish, vegetables, they'd go bad quickly, but salt could save them. It dried out food, stopping rot. This meant people could store food for months, even years. They could survive long winters or tough journeys. Without salt, whole communities might starve. So, a king who owned salt mines, or controlled the trade routes, held immense power. He literally held the power to let his people live or starve. This was about survival, not just money. Think about it like this. For us today, it's like someone controlling all the clean water, or maybe all the internet access. We need these things to live and connect. Your body even needs a tiny bit of salt to keep your heart beating and your brain working. It's absolutely essential. So when we talk about rich kings from the past, their true wealth wasn't always fancy castles. It was simpler, deeper. It was owning something so basic, so needed, that everyone depended on them for it. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What do we take for granted today that, to someone else, or in another time, would be the most valuable treasure? It's a quiet thought, reminding us that simple things can hold profound power. John D. Rockefeller, Oil King. Have you ever stopped to think about what lights up your world after the sun goes down? For a long, long time, before light bulbs were common, people relied on oil lamps. Here's the thing. One man, John D. Rockefeller, didn't just sell oil for these lamps. He became the unquestioned king of it. He built an empire so vast, so powerful, that when we adjust his wealth for today's money, he stands as one of the richest human beings who ever lived. It's hard to truly grasp that kind of wealth, that much control. Imagine if one person owned every single video game console, every streaming service, and every internet connection. You would have to go through them for almost everything you do online. That's a little bit like the power Rockefeller had with oil. He started small, but he was incredibly smart and driven. He saw the need for oil, and he didn't just produce it. He bought the wells, the refineries that cleaned it, the trains that shipped it, and the companies that sold it. He wanted to control every step. This wasn't just about making money. It was about shaping how people lived their lives. His company, Standard Oil, brought light to homes, fueled industries, and later, powered the first cars. But with all that power came questions. What does it mean for one person to hold so much of the world in their hands? This kind of story makes you pause and consider the immense impact a single individual can have, not just on their own time, but on the future too. It makes you wonder about the true weight of such a legacy. Building an empire out of black gooey, imagine finding something dark and sticky, bubbling up from the earth. Most people would just see a mess, right? A problem to avoid. But what if that mess held the power to change everything? For thousands of years, people mostly ignored this thick, black liquid, or just used it in small ways, maybe for lamps or sealing boats. It was just oil, but nobody really understood its true power. Then, things started to change. Suddenly, the world needed energy like never before. Factories roared to life, demanding fuel. Cities began to glow with electric lights, and people wanted to travel further, faster, connecting across vast distances. And here's the thing, that black goo, that oil, was perfect for all of it. It was like the earth had kept a powerful secret, a dark, rich treasure, hidden just beneath our feet. It fueled the machines that built our modern world, powered cars that linked towns, and even warmed homes. The way we lived changed forever. All because of this dark substance. Think of it like this. Maybe you have an old rusty bike gathering dust in your garage. For years, it just sits there, looking like broken junk. But then, you realize with a little work, new tires, some oil on the chain, a fresh coat of paint, it could take you on amazing adventures, give you incredible freedom. That's a bit like what happened with oil. We stopped seeing the messy, useless rust, and started seeing the endless journey and possibility it offered. And so, immense fortunes were made, built not on gold or jewels, but on this dark, underground liquid. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other black goo might be around us today? What simple thing do we overlook, thinking it's just ordinary, when it actually holds unimaginable power or potential? It's a quiet reminder that true wealth sometimes isn't shiny or obvious. It's often found in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone to see its real worth. Andrew Carnegie, From Rags to Steel, Riches. Have you ever thought about what it means to start with absolutely nothing? To come from a place of deep struggle, and then build something so huge, it changes the world. This is the story of Andrew Carnegie. He was born in Scotland, very poor, and his family came to America looking for a better life. Imagine being a child and having to work in a factory, long hours, for barely any money. That was Andrew. But he wasn't just working. He was watching, learning, and dreaming. He saw how the world was changing, especially with new materials like steel. Steel was tough, strong, and could be used to build things never before imagined. It's like looking at a pile of seemingly ordinary rocks and seeing not just stone, but the very foundation for something magnificent. A towering building, a powerful engine. Carnegie had that kind of vision. He worked incredibly hard, saved every penny, and invested wisely. He built steel mills, the biggest ones in the world. His company made the steel for bridges, skyscrapers, and railroads that stitched America together. It took a deep kind of courage and focus, a willingness to keep pushing even when things were incredibly difficult. He really believed in what he was doing. But his story isn't just about making money. As he grew older, he felt a heavy weight of responsibility. He believed that those who gathered great wealth should also give it back to society. So, he spent his later years building libraries, supporting education, and trying to make the world a better place with his fortune. His life shows us that what you build with your hands can change the world, and what you do with your heart can change lives. It makes you wonder, what kind of lasting impact can one person truly make? The guy who built bridges and a fortune. Have you ever stopped to really look at a bridge? Not just the concrete or steel, but what it means. It's a path over something difficult, a way to connect what was once separated. Here's the thing. Some of the richest people in history didn't just stumble into money. They saw a giant problem, like a river too wide to cross, or a mountain range dividing communities, and they decided to build a solution. They built the bridges, the roads, the canals that literally changed how people lived, worked, and even loved. Think about it. Before these structures, journeys were long, dangerous, and expensive. Goods couldn't move. People felt isolated. But then, someone with a vision stepped forward. They imagined a world where trade could flow, where families could visit, where new opportunities could bloom across the gap. This wasn't just about moving dirt. It was about moving forward. And because that need was so deep, so essential to everyday life, the person who made those connections possible became incredibly wealthy. It wasn't just building, it was uniting. This might work for you to understand. Imagine you and your friends are trying to plan something cool, but no one can agree. Everyone has different ideas, and it feels like there's a big wall between you. But then, one person steps up. They listen to everyone, find common ground, and help everyone see how their ideas can fit together. That person, in a way, built a bridge between all of you. They didn't just solve a problem. They created harmony and made something good happen for everyone. And that's why it matters. The money itself, it's just numbers. But the bridge, that structure stands for decades, maybe centuries. It's a quiet testament to a person's bold idea and hard work. It reminds us that true lasting impact, the kind that reshapes the world, often comes from solving the fundamental human need to connect. It's a legacy far richer than any bank account. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the railroad boss. Have you ever thought about what it truly means to control things? Not just your own choices, but the very way a nation moves, breathes, and connects. Cornelius Vanderbilt, known as the Commodore, held that kind of power in America. He started small, battling rough currents with his ferry boats in New York Harbor, learning the rhythm of the water. But he saw beyond the waves. He saw the future in steamships. Then, in the long iron ribbons of railroads stretching across the land, he didn't just own a few boats or trains. He built an empire. Think of it. He linked distant cities, moved mountains of goods from farms to factories, and carried countless people toward new lives and opportunities. His wealth, when we adjust it for today, was mind-boggling, so vast it's hard to imagine. But his story isn't just about the dollar signs. It's about the raw, undeniable power, and what one person chooses to do with it. Imagine for a moment if one person owned every single major highway, every important bridge, and every big airport in your country. If they decided which towns got a new road, or which cities had the busiest routes. That's a little like what Vanderbilt did. He could speed up trade, or slow it down. He could connect communities, or leave them isolated. He didn't just transport things. He literally laid the tracks for a new America, shaping its very geography and destiny. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the choices he made, the sheer force of will it took to build something so monumental. Such immense power can shape everything, from tiny villages to huge nations, touching countless lives along the way. His life reminds us that building something grand often comes with a heavy weight, the weight of responsibility, the weight of shaping history, one train track at a time. And sometimes, the very ambition that makes us powerful also defines the world we leave behind. A mark far deeper than just money. Why trains made some people super rich. Have you ever truly stopped to think about what it means to connect distant places? To build something so grand that it reshapes the very map of human possibility and destiny. Before trains, moving goods and people across long distances was slow, punishing, and incredibly costly. Imagine a small town, rich with resources like coal or lumber, yet trapped by miles of rough land, unable to share its bounty with the world beyond. Then, the train arrived. It was more than just a new machine. It was a powerful, steaming promise. This metal beast could carry massive tons of goods, breathing smoke and fire, faster than anything before. This wasn't merely about speed, but about breaking down old barriers. Suddenly, vast isolated spaces could be linked. A track laid down meant a direct path from that once forgotten town, bursting with potential, straight to the hungry factories and rapidly growing cities that craved its treasures. Here's the thing about those who became super rich. They saw this future coming. They poured their money and ambitious vision into building these iron pathways. They understood, deeply, that connection creates immense value, and that value inevitably creates immense wealth. It was like they owned the very lifelines, the pulsing veins, of a developing country. Think about it like this. Imagine your school cafeteria, but the only way food could get from the kitchen to your table was if you personally built the special conveyor belt, and everyone had to use your belt. You'd control everything. That's a bit like what these train magnates achieved. They didn't just build a new way to travel. They built the superhighway of their time, deciding who got connected and how. It teaches us something truly profound, doesn't it? That true fortune often isn't just about inventing something entirely new. Sometimes, it's about seeing how to connect what already exists in a vastly better, more efficient way. It's about understanding that a single, bold idea, like a steam engine on rails, can not only move physical mountains but also reshape human dreams and build empires of wealth, forged from sheer will, iron, steam, and incredible foresight. Henry Ford, cars for everyone and him. Have you ever really wanted something, but it felt totally out of reach, like a super cool gadget everyone else had, but you just couldn't get one? Back in the early 1900s, cars were exactly like that. They were expensive, complicated machines, only for the super rich. Henry Ford looked at those cars and saw something different. He didn't just want to make cars, he wanted to make cars for everyone. Here's how it happened. Ford had this amazing, yet really tough, idea, the assembly line. Imagine building something step by step, with each person doing just one small part, over and over again. It made building cars much, much faster. And when something can be made quickly, it usually costs less to buy. Suddenly, the dream of owning a car wasn't just for millionaires. Regular families, working people, could finally save up and get one. This was a massive change. It changed how people lived, where they could work, and even how they thought about personal freedom. Think about the feeling of finally getting something you've wanted forever. That's what Ford gave to millions of people. He opened up a whole new world of travel and opportunity. It's a bit like how cell phones used to be big and expensive, only for a few business people. Then, over time, they became smaller, cheaper, and now almost everyone has one. Ford did that for cars. He didn't just sell a product, he sold a new way of life. But here's the thing. While he made cars for the masses, Henry Ford also became incredibly, unbelievably rich. His big idea changed everything, giving many a taste of freedom. But it also built an empire that made him one of history's wealthiest people, even when you adjust for inflation. So, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? When one person's dream of making something accessible comes true, what does that really mean for everyone else? And for the creator? It shows how a powerful idea can shape millions of lives and fortunes, leaving us to ponder the true cost and value of progress. Making cars, making money. Imagine a world where traveling a long distance was a huge, expensive deal. Most people never went far from their homes. Then, something changed everything. What if one simple invention could unlock a new kind of freedom for millions, and make some people incredibly rich in the process? This is the story of the automobile, and how it shaped not just how we get around, but also who became some of history's wealthiest figures. Before, cars, horses, and trains were the main ways to travel. Cars were rare, toys for the super. But then, people like Henry Ford had a different idea. He didn't just want to build cars, he wanted to build many cars, cars that ordinary people could actually afford. He introduced something called the assembly line. Imagine a giant conveyor belt, where each worker does just one small part of putting a car together. This made building cars super fast and much cheaper. It was like magic, turning a luxury into something everyone could dream of owning. Think about your favorite pair of sneakers. Once, maybe they were custom made, really hard to get, but now, big companies make millions of them, so almost anyone can own a pair. That's a bit like what happened with cars. This wasn't just about selling a product, it was about selling a feeling, the feeling of independence, the feeling of opportunity. Suddenly, a farm kid could work in the city, or a family could take a Sunday drive to the next town. Roads sprang up, cities grew, and the very fabric of daily life was woven differently. It brought families closer, even when they lived far apart. It opened up jobs and adventures no one had imagined before. This ability to create something that changed so many lives, and to do it on such a massive scale, is what built immense fortunes. It reminds us that sometimes, the greatest wealth isn't just found in gold or land, but in understanding a deep human need, like the need for connection, or for freedom, and then finding a way to make that need possible for everyone. It shows how one person's vision, to make something accessible, can echo through generations, changing the very rhythm of human existence. It's a quiet reflection on how much we sometimes yearn for what lies just beyond our reach, and how a simple machine made that reach a little shorter. Jakob Fugger, the world's first banker. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to hold immense power, not with a sword or a crown, but with numbers and promises? We often think of kings and queens as the ones who truly ruled, fighting grand battles, but a quiet, powerful force worked behind the scenes, shaping destinies with something less obvious: money. Imagine a time when money wasn't just paper, but actual, heavy metal, gleaming gold and silver coins. Most people kept their coins safe, hidden under floorboards or buried. Then came Jakob Fugger, living in the late 1400s and early 1500s. Here's the thing. He saw money not just as something to be stored, but as something alive, something that could grow. He didn't just have money. He made it work in ways no one had quite seen. Think of a tiny seed. It's small, but if you plant it, water it, give it sun, that seed grows into a huge, strong tree, giving fruit and shade. Fugger treated money like that seed. He loaned vast sums to powerful princes, and even to the Pope, helping them pay for expensive wars or build magnificent cathedrals. He also invested in distant mines, pulling more precious metals from the earth. He created a new system where money wasn't just a static pile. It was a moving, breathing force that could multiply itself, almost magically. This was a revolutionary idea, quietly shifting the world's power. The weight of that silent power he held over kingdoms and great figures. It must have been immense. His choices, made quietly over ledgers, could decide if a war was won or lost, if a city thrived or faded. He wasn't just wealthy. He understood how to make wealth itself grow, shaping the future from his desk. He showed that money, when managed cleverly, could be a silent architect of history. It makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Money isn't just about buying things. It's about the invisible power it holds, the dreams it can build or break. People like Jakob Fugger learned to wield that power, quietly changing the world, and perhaps even our own lives, forever. Lending money when no one else would. Have you ever faced a moment where you really needed help, and it felt like no one would give it, like everyone had turned their back? That raw feeling of being alone, wondering where to turn next, it's a powerful thing. Now, imagine if someone stepped forward in that moment, when literally no one else would. They saw your need, maybe even saw a sliver of hope others missed, and they took a chance on you. That's often how immense wealth was built, adjusted for inflation, across history. This isn't just about loans, it's about a deeply human exchange during a crisis. Picture a kingdom crumbling from war, a family facing ruin after a famine, or a new invention that everyone else thought was crazy. Standard lenders, the big banks of their time, would say no. The risk was too high. But then, one person, with a sharp mind, and perhaps a brave, calculating heart, would offer help. They saw opportunity in desperation. They understood that when options are scarce, people will agree to terms they never would otherwise. It's like when you're the only one willing to share your notes with a classmate who missed a lot of school and is really struggling. Everyone else is worried about their own grade, but you take a chance on your friend, helping them catch up. You see their potential, and you build a bond of trust and gratitude that no one else could. This act of lending, when all others refused, wasn't just about money changing hands. It was about controlling the future, about gaining immense power and influence over people and nations at their weakest point. It speaks to a profound understanding of human nature, our deepest fears, our desperate hopes, and the powerful courage it takes to stand alone, seeing a path where others saw only an end. It's a quiet, heavy kind of power, born from moments of true vulnerability. The Medici family, bankers, artists, and power. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if one family had so much money they could actually change the world, not just by fancy things, but truly shape how people thought, what art they saw, and even who led their city? That's the story of the Medici family. They were bankers from Florence, Italy, hundreds of years ago, during a time called the Renaissance. And here's the thing, they didn't just count money, they used it to build a legacy that still stands today. Imagine your school needs new art supplies, better sports equipment, or even a brand new library. A very wealthy family steps in and pays for all of it, making your school a center of learning and creativity for everyone. That's kind of what the Medici did for Florence, but on a massive scale. Their banks were like the big financial companies of today, lending money and helping trade. They became unbelievably rich, but instead of just keeping it all, they invested in beauty. They paid artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci to create masterpieces. They funded scientists and philosophers. They built magnificent churches and grand palaces. It wasn't just about showing off. It was about believing deeply in human potential and finding ways to let that potential bloom for everyone. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That piles of coins could lead to sculptures that take your breath away, or paintings that tell stories across centuries. Their wealth wasn't just about comfort. It was about vision. They understood that money could be a tool, a way to make ideas real and beautiful. But with all that power came a heavy weight. They made enemies, faced danger, and had to be constantly smart about their choices. It shows us that even the greatest fortunes are tied to human dreams and struggles. Their story makes you think, what kind of ripple effect do our own choices, big or small, create in the world around us? What will we leave behind for others to see and feel? How one family ran a city. Have you ever stopped to think about who really runs things in a city, even if they don't have a fancy title like mayor? Imagine a time, centuries ago, when one single family could quietly steer an entire city's destiny, not with armies or crowns, but with something far more subtle and powerful: money and influence. Take the Medici family in Florence, Italy, for example. They weren't kings or emperors, but they were super-rich bankers. Here's the thing, because they were so wealthy, they lent money to everyone: princes, popes, even regular merchants. This meant many powerful people owed them favors. So, when the Medici spoke, others listened. They suggested who should get important jobs, funded incredible art and architecture that still stands today, and even helped decide if the city went to war or stayed peaceful. They became the city's heartbeat, pulling strings from behind the scenes, not through official command, but through deep respect and obligation. This kind of power wasn't written on a scroll. It was woven into the very fabric of daily life. Think about your school. Maybe there's a student or a small group who everyone looks up to. They might not be the class president or hold any official title, but their opinions shape what's cool, what activities get popular, or even how people treat each other. They influence everything without having to give direct orders, and that's why it matters. This quiet, deep kind of influence shows us that power isn't just about who has the biggest army or the loudest voice. Sometimes it's about who has the most resources, the most connections, and the foresight to use them. It makes you wonder about fairness and whose voices truly get heard when one family holds so much sway over a city's soul. William the Conqueror, taking over England, taking all its gold. Have you ever stopped to think about what it would truly mean to own an entire country? Not just be in charge, but to actually own it. Every bit of land, every river, every valuable thing within its borders. That's pretty much what happened with William the Conqueror. His story isn't just about winning a battle. It's about the staggering idea of one person claiming absolute wealth through conquest. So here's what happened. After a famous fight called the Battle of Hastings, in 1066, William didn't just get a crown, he got everything. England became his personal property. Think about it. He took all the land from the nobles who had fought against him, and that land wasn't just dirt. It came with farms, with villages, with people. He became the ultimate landlord, and everyone else became his tenants. owing him loyalty and a share of their efforts. To make sure everyone knew what was his, William ordered a massive survey. It was called the Doomsday Book. This book was like a super detailed inventory of everything in England, who owned what before, what they owned now, how many farms, how many animals, even how many fish. It was his way of saying, this is all mine now, and I have the records to prove it. It showed the sheer scale of his power, which then turned into unbelievable wealth. Imagine you're playing a huge online game, and you somehow manage to win control of the entire game world, not just a leaderboard spot, but every single item, every building, every virtual currency in the whole game now belongs to you. That's a bit like the total ownership William achieved. It makes you think, doesn't it, about how much power one person can gather, and what it means for everyone else caught in that change. His wealth wasn't just about gold coins. It was about controlling every aspect of a nation. It shows us that sometimes, the richest people in history got their wealth not just through trade or business, but by taking entire pieces of the world for themselves, reshaping lives forever. When winning a war meant getting everything, have you ever played a game where the winner takes all? Imagine that feeling, but on a scale so huge it changed entire nations. Long ago, in old times, when armies clashed and battles ended, the side that won didn't just get a trophy, they got everything. This wasn't about a simple handshake and going home. It was about truly claiming the spoils of victory. Think about ancient kings and powerful empires, thousands of years ago. When one group defeated another, they didn't just claim land, they took the losing side's gold, their crops, their valuable resources like metals and timber, even their people, often as slaves. This was how enormous fortunes were made, not by selling apps or starting a clever company, but by sheer force and conquest. The wealth that built grand palaces and funded vast new armies flowed directly from the defeat of another. It's like if your school's championship team didn't just win the trophy, but they also got to take all the other schools' best sports equipment, their most talented players, and even some of their budget for the next year. That's a bit how it was. The winners didn't just get bragging rights, they got the very foundations of the other society. They absorbed its wealth, its labor, its future. It's a heavy thought, isn't it? The sheer weight of that kind of victory, and the immense loss for the defeated. For the conquerors, immeasurable riches poured in, shaping history and power. But for those who lost, it meant not just defeat, but often complete ruin. Their homes, their freedom, their very way of life could be swallowed whole. It reminds us how fragile peace can be, how much our world has changed, and how the value of things and people was once measured so differently, and so brutally. One group's immense riches came directly from another's devastating loss. Mir Osman Ali Khan, the last Nizam. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to have more wealth than you could possibly imagine? So much money, so many jewels, that it's almost impossible to count. Mir Osman Ali Khan was a man who knew that feeling. He was the last Nizam, or ruler, of a huge, rich kingdom in India called Hyderabad. For a time, he was known as the wealthiest person on earth. His riches almost beyond understanding. He wasn't just rich in money. He possessed incredible amounts of gold, silver, and famous jewels like the Jacob diamond, which was as big as a hen's egg. He lived in grand palaces and had thousands of servants. But here's the thing about all that wealth. It also came with a heavy weight. His life wasn't just about lavish living. It was about leading a kingdom that was seeing its traditions and its very way of life challenged by a changing world. He was the last of his kind, watching an old era fade away, even with all his treasures around him. It's a bit like having the biggest, most amazing treehouse in the neighborhood. You've got everything inside, all the best snacks, games, comfy pillows. But then, the seasons change. The tree grows older, the neighborhood changes, and no matter how much you love that treehouse, you can't stop time from moving on or new rules from coming into play. Mir Osman Ali Khan had so much, but he couldn't stop the world from shifting around him. His immense wealth, in the end, couldn't stop the political tides that eventually brought his kingdom to an end. His story reminds us that while money can buy many things, it can't buy time or stop the world from changing. It makes you wonder if true value lies in how much you own, or in something deeper, something that connects us all. Even when grand empires crumble, jewels and riches in old India, how much does it really mean to be rich? Is it just mountains of money, tucked away in banks? Or is there something more to true wealth, something that shines beyond gold and silver? When we think about old India, It whispers of a kind of richness that's hard for us to even picture today. This wasn't just about coins. Imagine diamonds, some as large as birds' eggs, catching the light in 1,000 different ways. Think about emeralds deep green like hidden forests, and pearls so perfect they seemed to hold their own soft glow. Old India was incredibly blessed with these natural treasures, dug from its earth and found in its waters. The land was famous not just for its valuable spices and rare silks, but especially for these breathtaking jewels. They weren't just shiny rocks though. They were powerful symbols of who was in charge, deep religious belief, and sometimes even fate itself. Kings, often called Maharajas, and mighty emperors had incredible power. Their royal palaces weren't just places to live, they were like giant, sparkling museums. Think of the Mughal emperors, whose amazing thrones were covered in so many gems. They looked like they were lit by 1,000 tiny suns. This wasn't just about showing off. People also believed that such beauty and plenty were gifts from the universe, linking their earthly power to something divine. And that legendary wealth drew people from all over the world. Some came to trade fairly, but many more came to conquer and claim. It's a little like finding that one super rare card you've been searching for, or picking up the most perfect, unbroken seashell on a quiet beach. You know it's special, truly unique, but try to imagine that feeling, multiplied by 1,000, woven into the everyday life and identity of an entire civilization. These weren't just personal treasures. They were part of a nation's story, a grand tale told in glittering facets. These ancient jewels and immense riches remind us that what we value isn't always simple money. Sometimes, true wealth is about what we hold dear, what we feel connected to, and the silent stories these incredible objects carry across centuries. They softly tell us about a lost world of splendor, and how human hands took the earth's natural beauty and made it even more astonishing. So, perhaps the deepest richness is the wonder they still stir in our hearts today. Nikolai Alexandrovich Romanov, the last Tsar's treasure. Have you ever stopped to think about what it truly means to be unbelievably rich? Not just wealthy, but so rich your family ruled an entire empire for centuries, holding power and treasures beyond imagining. We're talking about Tsar Nicholas II, the very last emperor of Russia. When people list history's richest individuals, his name often shines brightly. But it's not just about the numbers. It's about what that staggering amount of money represented then, and what it means today, adjusted for modern costs. Nicholas inherited an immense personal fortune. His family controlled vast lands, owned magnificent palaces filled with jewels, and influenced Russia's economy. Imagine trying to grasp that kind of wealth. It's like trying to count every star in the night sky, impossible to truly picture. When we adjust his fortune for inflation, meaning how much that same wealth would be worth today, he stands as one of the wealthiest humans ever. His fortune was so huge, it feels almost mythical. Here's the thing, sometimes, even the grandest treasures can't protect you from the real world. Think about your most prized possession, maybe a special video game. It holds great value to you. But if your town lost power for weeks, or everything changed completely, that item, no matter how valuable, might not actually help you survive or bring true comfort. It's like that for Nicholas. All his immense wealth, all his royal power, couldn't stop the revolution sweeping through his country. It couldn't save him or his family when their world tragically fell apart. It makes you pause and wonder, doesn't it? What is wealth truly for, especially when it reaches such incredible heights? Is it just about having more, or about what you do with it, or what it ultimately cannot do? The quiet story of the last Tsar reminds us that even with unimaginable riches, some things are beyond money. Things like lasting peace, true security, or the deep trust of your people. It's a calm thought, but sometimes the most valuable things in life don't have a price tag at all. Russia's royal riches. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to own, well, basically everything? To have a fortune so vast, it stretched across an entire country. This is the story of Russia's last emperors, the Romanovs, and their incredible wealth, adjusted for inflation to make sense in our time. Their final Tsar, Nicholas II, held what's considered one of the largest personal fortunes in all of history. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in today's money. He wasn't just wealthy, he was in control of an enormous empire. He owned palaces dripping with gold, priceless art, dazzling jewels, and most importantly, vast stretches of land and natural resources across an immense country. Imagine feeling like the entire land, from icy plains to bustling cities, was yours, in some fundamental way. But here's the thing. This immense personal wealth stood in sharp, painful contrast to the lives of most Russian people. While the royal family lived in unbelievable luxury, eating elaborate meals and wearing the finest clothes, millions of ordinary Russians lived in poverty. They often struggled for basic food, warm homes, and a chance at a better life. Think about your own classroom. Imagine if one student had absolutely every single toy, every game console, all the best clothes, and the most delicious snacks, while everyone else had almost nothing. That huge, visible difference can create a deep ache inside, can't it? The royal family believed their right to rule, and therefore their wealth, came from God. This belief made them feel separate, almost untouchable, from the struggles of everyday people. But such a massive gap, that feeling of being on completely different planets, eventually created deep sadness and anger that simmered for generations. So, the story of Russia's royal riches isn't just about the sheer amount of money. It's a quiet, powerful reminder. It whispers about how extreme wealth, when it collects in one person's hands, while so many others have nothing, can weigh heavily on a society. It suggests that even the most sparkling crowns and the grandest palaces can feel fragile when the world around them is hurting. It leaves us wondering if true richness is found in owning everything, or in making sure everyone has enough to simply live with dignity. Jeff Bezos, how he sells us everything. Have you ever stopped to think about how much stuff you can buy with just a few clicks? Like, almost anything you can imagine, right? Jeff Bezos, the person who started Amazon, basically built a giant machine that knows what we want, and then gets it to us, super fast. It's like magic sometimes, but it's actually a really smart way of thinking about how people shop. For a long time, if you wanted something, you had to go to a store. You'd walk around, look at things, maybe wait in line. It was an experience, a journey. But Jeff Bezos had a different idea. He thought, what if people could get anything, anytime, without leaving their couch? And that simple idea changed everything. He understood a deep part of human nature. We like things to be easy. We want convenience. We want what we want. Now, think about it like this. Imagine your brain is a computer, and it has a want folder. Before Amazon, you'd have to manually go and fetch what was in that folder. Now, Amazon is almost like an assistant who sees what's in your want folder and then just drops it off at your door. This isn't just about selling things. It's about making the act of getting things almost invisible, so smooth. It lowers the energy it takes to desire something and then own it. It's a powerful idea. This path of least resistance. It means we often choose the easiest option, even if we don't realize we're doing it. And that's the quiet genius of it all. It makes us wonder though, what happens when everything is just so incredibly easy to get? Do we still value things the same way, or does the ease change their meaning? Do we even think about the journey something takes to reach us, or just the end result? It leaves us with a feeling that convenience, while wonderful, also gently steers our choices in ways we might not fully grasp, shaping how we see the world, one effortless purchase at a time. The Amazon story, from books to billions. Think about Amazon. Today, it feels like it's everywhere. Right, books, movies, groceries, things delivered straight to your door. But it didn't start that way. It began with a much simpler idea, sparked in the early days of the internet. Back then, most people still bought books in physical stores. The internet was new and, for many, quite confusing. But one person, Jeff Bezos, saw something truly different. He imagined a place where you could buy any book, anywhere, without leaving your house. This wasn't just about selling books. It was about seeing the potential of a completely new way of doing business. He understood that the internet wasn't just a passing trend, it was a foundational shift. Like when people first started using telephones, he had a deep belief in where technology was heading. This is kind of like looking at a tiny seed. It doesn't look like much, just a small, hard thing. But inside that seed is all the instruction, all the potential, to grow into a giant, towering tree. It needs the right care, good soil, water, and sunlight. But the plan is already there, waiting to unfold. Bezos's idea of an online bookstore was that tiny seed. He didn't stop there. Once the system for selling books was strong, he realized that same setup, easy ordering, fast shipping could work for almost anything else. So, Amazon grew from books to music, then to toys, electronics, and eventually, just about everything. He kept asking, what else do people need? How can we make it easier? The story of Amazon, from books to billions, shows us something important. It's a quiet reminder that big things often begin with a very small, clear vision. True wealth, sometimes, isn't just about money, but about seeing possibilities others miss. It's about the patient, quiet courage to nurture a small idea, letting it grow into something that connects people and changes the world, sometimes in ways we never expected. Elon Musk, rockets, cars, and wild ideas. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and truly imagined what it would be like to live among the stars? What kind of person dares to not just imagine such grand things, but actually tries to make them happen? This is where someone like Elon Musk comes in. He's not just famous for having a lot of money, but for having ideas that seem to leap straight out of a science fiction movie. He dreams of electric cars for everyone, helping our planet, and rockets that can take us to Mars, so humanity can have a future beyond Earth. Here's the thing about people like him. They don't just think small. They feel a powerful pull towards the impossible. For thousands of years, humans have looked at daunting problems and tried to solve them, or gazed at the unknown and felt an intense urge to explore. Think about the first people who bravely built boats to cross vast oceans, or the daring inventors who put a motor on a carriage to make the first car. Elon Musk is doing something similar, but with a modern twist. He's constantly asking, what are the biggest, hardest problems we face? And then tries to build companies to solve them. No matter how wild the ideas sound, it's a bit like when you're given a huge, complicated project at school. Most of us might choose an easy topic. But imagine if your project was to design a brand new clean way for your whole town to get electricity, or invent a practical flying car. That's the grand scale of thinking we're talking about here. He takes incredible risks others wouldn't even dream of. And that's why his story is so important. It makes us pause and truly think about the very edge of what's possible. It shows us that one person, with enough courage and big ideas, can truly try to push the boundaries of our known world. It gently reminds us that dreaming wildly, even if it feels almost impossible right now, is a powerful, quiet force that can spark incredible change and shape the future we all share. Maybe it even inspires us to wonder about our own wildest, most hopeful ideas. Thinking big, earning bigger. Have you ever truly wondered what makes some people's fortunes so vast? We talk about hard work, and it matters. But here's the thing. Many work hard and don't become billionaires. So, what's different? It often comes down to thinking big. This isn't just wanting money. It's seeing a problem or a chance affecting huge numbers of people, not just a few. It's an idea that, if it works, could change things for millions, even billions. Think, a local cafe helps its community. Good. But someone who finds a way to deliver coffee, beans to every store in a whole country. That's thinking on a different scale. Long ago, leaders didn't just worry about their village. They imagined empires, trade routes across continents, new ways to organize life. Take the ancient Roman Empire. They didn't build roads for one town. They built thousands of miles to connect an entire world. They wanted things to work for everyone under their rule. That kind of vision, reaching so many, is key. Imagine a small stream. It waters a garden, helpful, but if you build a giant dam, it powers a whole city, waters huge farms, and stops floods. The stream itself didn't change, but how someone saw its potential did. They imagined using it in a much bigger way. Our minds work like that. We can think about our small circle, or stretch to imagine one that includes almost everyone. So, looking at history's richest, we often see people who weren't just luckier. They were dreamers on a grand scale. They saw whole systems, not just small pieces. It makes you think, doesn't it? What if we allowed ourselves to dream bigger, not just about money, but about the impact we could have? Maybe it's a quiet reminder that our ideas, however small, could grow into something truly immense if we let them. Bill Gates, the computer revolution guy. Have you ever stopped to really think about how much we use computers every single day? It's almost impossible to imagine life without them, isn't it? But there was a time, not so long ago, when these powerful machines were complicated, clunky things, hidden away in labs. Only a few brilliant minds knew how to speak their language. Bill Gates saw this. He saw the vast potential, the quiet power waiting inside those machines. And he had a vision, to put a computer on every desk, in every home. Here's the thing. He didn't invent the computer itself, not like the parts you can touch. But he did something just as important, maybe even more. He helped create the software, the programs, the operating systems that made computers understandable. Think of it like this. Imagine a super-fast, amazing car engine, but it has no steering wheel, no gas pedal, no dashboard you can read. Bill Gates and his team designed that easy-to-use dashboard. They gave everyone a way to drive the car, even if they weren't mechanics. This wasn't just about making money. It was about opening a door for humanity. It allowed regular people, not just scientists, to create, to connect, to learn in entirely new ways. It meant a student could research a project from their bedroom. A small business owner could manage their books, and families could send emails across oceans. It brought the world closer, one simple click at a time, and that's why it matters. Because sometimes, the biggest changes don't come from building something new from scratch, but from making powerful tools available to everyone, quietly changing how we live, how we dream, and how we share our world. Software that made a fortune. Have you ever stopped to think about what wealth truly means? For a long time, riches were shiny gold, vast lands, or towering castles, things you could see and hold. But what if some of the greatest fortunes in history didn't come from anything physical? What if they came from something completely invisible, like a whisper of an idea, yet powerful enough to change how we live? That's software. Here's the thing about software. It's just lines of code, like secret instructions written in a special language for computers. It isn't a physical object, but it creates experiences, connects people, and solves problems on a huge scale. Think about an app you use every day to chat with friends, or the streaming service that brings shows into your home, or even the browser that lets you explore the internet. These aren't solid things, but they sprang from human minds, from ideas turned into digital reality. One person, or a small team, dreamed up a useful or fun tool, and they wrote the code. And then, when millions, even billions, of people started using it, finding joy or help in it, that invisible code became incredibly valuable. It's kind of like a favorite song. You can't hold a song, right? But if a melody touches millions of hearts, if it becomes special to many, its creator can become truly wealthy. Not from the sound waves, but from the emotion and connection it sparks. Software works in a similar, quiet way. It's an idea that spreads, makes connections, and simplifies our lives. And that's why it matters. It teaches us something deep about ourselves. It shows us that real wealth isn't always about what you can grasp. Sometimes, the greatest treasures are born in our minds, in our ability to imagine new ways to help each other, or to make life a little better. It reminds us that even invisible ideas can leave the biggest, most lasting marks on history. It's a quiet testament to the incredible power of human thought. Warren Buffett, the smart investor. Have you ever wondered what truly makes someone wise, especially when it comes to something like money? It's not about being the fastest, or the loudest, or even the most complicated. For a man like Warren Buffett, it's about seeing things others miss. He became one of the richest people not by chasing every new, exciting trend, but by being incredibly patient and thoughtful. He saw the world with a different kind of vision. Here's the thing. Most people want to get rich fast. They look for quick buys and quick sells, hoping for a sudden jump in value. But Warren Buffett had a deeply different idea. He looked at companies like they were actual businesses, not just fleeting numbers on a screen. He wanted to understand what they did, how they worked, and if they had lasting value, a strong soul to them. And then, he waited. He bought a part of these good businesses and held on to them for years, sometimes decades. It's like planting a tiny tree in your backyard. You don't dig it up every week to check if it's growing, do you? You water it, you give it sun, and you trust in its slow, steady progress. Over a long, quiet time, that little tree becomes a mighty, sheltering oak. This way of thinking, this deep patience, it's not just about money. It's a quiet, profound wisdom. It reminds us that some of the very best things in life, the ones that truly last and offer the most comfort, aren't built in a day. They need careful tending, a deep understanding, and the genuine patience to watch them slowly unfold. It's about believing in the full journey, every season of it, not just the thrilling finish line. It means trusting that what you invest your time, your hope, and your heart into, given enough quiet moments, will eventually bloom into something truly wonderful. It teaches us to see the strong, deep roots of things, not just the bright, fleeting blossoms on the surface. Getting rich by being patient. Have you ever felt like everything important has to happen right now? Like waiting is just wasting time? Our world constantly pushes us to hurry, to get instant results. But here's what some of the richest people in history understood deeply about patience. They knew that true, lasting wealth doesn't burst forth in a sudden, blinding flash. Instead, it grows quietly, steadily, like a deep, slow-burning ember that eventually warms an entire home. Think about how people built great fortunes for centuries. They didn't chase instant gold. They planted seeds, knowing the harvest would come later. They sent ships across vast, unpredictable oceans, a journey that could take months, even years, before a profit was seen. These people didn't just wait. They placed their trust in the slow, powerful unfolding of time. It wasn't just about money. It was about a quiet wisdom, an understanding that true value needs space to ripen, to mature into something magnificent. Here's a simple way to see it. Imagine you plant a tiny, hopeful acorn in the ground. You don't dig it up daily, full of worry, to see if it's a giant oak tree yet, right? You give it water and sure sunlight, and then you trust the process. You let time work its gentle magic. Years pass, and slowly, that little acorn becomes a strong, towering tree, standing for centuries, offering shade and shelter. It's the same with building anything truly valuable, like your dreams or your money. You make thoughtful choices, put a little aside, and then you let time, with its incredible power, do the rest. It's hard to be patient in our fast world, but sometimes, the greatest treasures, deep friendships, honed skills, lasting wealth are the ones that take the longest to build. There's a quiet strength in choosing to wait, a profound wisdom in knowing that the very best things are created not in a hurried frenzy, but with gentle, persistent care. And that's a lesson that touches something deep inside you, a truth about life itself, far beyond just money. Bernard Arnault, Luxury Goods Empire ***, Bernard Arnault, Luxury Goods Empire ***. Have you ever seen something so beautifully made, so special, that it feels almost magical? Bernard Arnault built an empire around that exact feeling. He brought together companies making high-end luxury goods, famous fashion, sparkling jewelry, exquisite perfumes. These are not just items, they are pieces of art, symbols of dreams and deep human desires. People have always wanted things that are unique, that stand out. It's not about needing them to survive. It's what these objects represent, a wish for beauty, elegance, something truly special. We all see something and think, that's incredible. Sometimes, owning it becomes a powerful desire, like reaching for a star. Think about your favorite hat, something you saved for that makes you feel good. It's more than an object. It's part of who you are, a memory. Now, imagine that feeling, magnified. Imagine it connected to items crafted with amazing skill, full of history. It's like collecting masterpieces, one precious creation after another. Arnault understood this quiet power. He saw that luxury items carry human longing, a wish for something that endures. For many, luxury isn't about showing off. It's about valuing excellence, celebrating creation, and holding on to lasting beauty. So, his wealth comes from something deeper than just money. It's built on our shared desire for beauty, for incredible craftsmanship, for things that make life feel more special, more meaningful. It makes you think about what truly matters, doesn't it? Maybe the real value lies in the stories these beautiful objects tell, and the dreams they gently inspire. Fancy stuff, huge money. Have you ever really stopped to think about what rich truly means? Not just having a lot of money for a cool new phone or a gaming system, but having so much that it changes the very ground you stand on. When we talk about the richest people in history, we're not just talking about big numbers in a bank. We're talking about an entire different world. Their fancy stuff wasn't just luxury, it was raw power, etched into palaces, vast stretches of land, and control over entire industries. Imagine owning so much that you could build whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. For centuries, this kind of wealth meant you literally shaped the world around you. You weren't just buying a bigger house. You were commanding thousands of people, influencing governments, and deciding the fate of entire regions. It's a heavy thought to consider one person having that much sway, that much ability to make their will real for others. Their personal desires could literally change a country's future. Think about it like this. Picture a massive online game where you can build anything, like a virtual city, or even a whole planet. Now imagine one player who has infinite resources, that can buy all the special items, all the land, and every single upgrade without even trying. They could build entire empires within the game, not because they're better, but because they have limitless resources. That's a bit like the scale of wealth these historical figures held, but in real life, affecting real people. Their fancy stuff was the equivalent of controlling all the mines, all the farms, and all the factories. So, when we consider their incredible collections and immense properties, we're really looking at a kind of unmatched human power. But here's the thing, did all that power, all that luxury, truly make them happy in the end? Or did it just bring a different kind of burden, a heavier responsibility? It makes you quietly wonder what really brings true contentment. Perhaps the things that truly fill our lives aren't things we can buy at all. The Rothschild family, Europe's bankers. Have you ever stopped to truly think about how much impact one single family could have on the world? Not with armies or grand speeches, but with something far quieter, yet incredibly powerful. Something like ... money. Imagine a time, centuries ago, when kings and countries desperately needed funds to fight wars, or to build new, important things. There weren't huge international banks like we have today, ready to loan billions at a moment's notice. This is where the Rothschild family stepped in, changing everything. Think of it like this. Your friend needs to borrow money for a big school project that could help your whole class. You trust them completely, so you lend it. Now, picture that on a massive, continent-wide scale. The Rothschilds became Europe's most trusted bankers. They started in a small Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt, Germany. But soon, 5 brothers spread out. They set up branches in major European capitals: London, Paris, Vienna, Naples. They created an incredible network, like a super-fast secret communication system for money and vital information, long before the internet or even good roads existed. When Napoleon's wars tore through Europe, nations needed funds to survive, and the Rothschilds were there, providing crucial loans, moving gold, and helping countries stay afloat. This wasn't just about getting rich, it was about holding immense influence, a quiet power that touched every corner of society. Their financial decisions could help a nation win a war, or avoid total ruin. It showed how deep financial connections, built on trust, intelligence, and a keen eye for what the world desperately needed, could become a force as mighty as any army. Their wealth, when we adjust it for inflation, doesn't just show a number. It reveals how deeply woven they became into the very fabric of history, shaping how empires rose and fell, how nations connected. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how the quiet power of finance, when used strategically and thoughtfully, can echo through centuries, reminding us that even without a crown, true influence can change everything, leaving a legacy that resonates to this day. A family that made its own money rules. Have you ever stopped to think about how the rules for money even came to be? Most of us just follow them, right? We learn about saving our allowance, spending wisely, or even the basics of investing. But for some families, the story was different. They weren't just playing by the existing rules. They were the ones who, in many ways, helped write the rule book itself. Here's the thing, throughout history, a few incredibly powerful families didn't just get rich within existing systems, they actively helped shape those systems. Imagine the immense influence needed to decide what money even was, how it would be used, and who would ultimately control its flow. It's a deep, almost quiet power. This isn't just about earning money in a fair game. It's about influencing the very laws, the banking structures, and the practices that define wealth for everyone else. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing a new board game with friends. Most of you just follow the instructions printed in the box. But what if one family had been involved when that game was first designed? What if they suggested certain game pieces, or specific ways to win, or how much money each player starts with ideas that happen to favor them? Their advantage wouldn't just be about luck or skill. It would be built right into the game's fabric, from the beginning. That's a bit like what happened with some incredibly wealthy families. It's a profound, almost humbling thought, isn't it? To not just live in the world, but to actually shape its foundational structures. It makes you pause and wonder about the fairness of it all, and the long-lasting impact. What does it mean for everyone else when a select few get to draw those initial lines? This quiet, heavy truth, the ability to craft the world's money rules, leaves a lasting echo through time, even today. Genghis Khan, his empire was his bank account. What does it truly mean to be rich? We think of big houses, fancy cars, or money in the bank. But for Genghis Khan, the legendary Mongol leader, wealth wasn't gold coins. His fortune was far grander. Here's the thing, his bank account was the vast land he controlled. and all the people and resources within it. Imagine one person's decisions shaping millions of lives, across an area larger than almost any country today. That was Genghis Khan. When his armies rode, they didn't just win battles, they claimed entire regions, new cities, and endless plains. Every new stretch of land he took became his property, his bank. He commanded the trade routes, fertile fields, forests, and all valuable goods moving through them. This wasn't just about owning stuff. It was about total power. If he needed horses, he had millions. If he needed food, he controlled the farms. His power meant he could demand what he wanted from anyone he conquered. Think about your school's biggest project. Now, picture one student owning all the art supplies, all the research books, and controlling who used the computers. That student might not have money, but they would have immense power. They could make anything happen because they controlled all the pieces. Genghis Khan had that kind of control. But over continents, it makes you think, doesn't it? What is true wealth? Is it only what we can hold? Or is it the influence we have, the paths we create? Genghis Khan's story helps us see that sometimes the greatest riches aren't counted in numbers. They are in the sheer scale of one's reach and the echoes of their choices across history. And that's why it matters. The commander who conquered wealth. Have you ever stopped to wonder if being rich means more than just having a lot of money in your pocket? Sometimes, true wealth isn't about what you own, but what you command. Think of ancient history, when empires stretched far, and one person's will shaped millions. We often imagine kings or emperors surrounded by jewels and gold. But for some, their richness wasn't just about their personal stash. It was about their power to move armies, build cities, and open up new worlds. Imagine a young man, Alexander the Great, who by his early 30s had carved out an empire from Greece all the way to India. He didn't just accumulate wealth, he conquered the sources of it. Every city he captured, every land he brought under his control, became part of his vast treasury. His soldiers, his ships, the very trade routes that brought spices and silk across continents, all were under his command. His personal fortune was immense, yes, but the real scale of his wealth was the entire network of resources and people he directed. It's like when a brilliant general leads an army. He doesn't personally own every shield or sword, every horse or tent, but he commands them all. He directs their every move. His power means he can deploy these resources to achieve something monumental. That kind of command, that ability to move vast systems and inspire millions, is a different kind of richness. It's the wealth of influence, of impact. So, maybe true wealth isn't always about the biggest bank account. Maybe it's about the profound reach of a person's spirit, the way they can shape the world, making mountains move, not with money, but with the sheer force of their vision. It's a quieter kind of wealth, one that echoes through time, long after coins turn to dust. P.T. Barnum, the showman's millions. Have you ever thought about how some people get rich not by making things, but by making us feel something? P.T. Barnum, a name synonymous with circuses and spectacle, built his massive fortune exactly this way. He wasn't a banker, or a factory owner, or a land baron. Here's the thing, Barnum was a master of human curiosity. He understood that people wanted to be amazed, to see things they couldn't explain, or to simply escape into a world of wonder. Imagine a time without movies, without the internet, when life was often predictable. Barnum stepped into that quiet world and offered a parade of the unbelievable. He presented marvels, sometimes real, sometimes cleverly staged, like the tiny General Tom Thumb or the famous Fiji mermaid. He wasn't selling necessities. He was selling stories, thrills, and the feeling of being part of something extraordinary. His wealth grew from the tickets sold, from the collective gasp of the crowd. It's a lot like how a catchy song or a funny video can spread like wildfire today. People share it because it makes them feel something, or because they want to share the experience. Barnum did that, but on a grand physical scale. Traveling across the country, he knew how to get people talking, how to create a buzz that would draw them in. His genius was seeing that imagination and wonder could be more valuable than gold or silver. This shows us something powerful about human nature. We crave enchantment. We want to believe in magic, even if just for an afternoon. So, when we look at Barnum's millions, it's not just about money. It's about the lasting value of joy, curiosity, and the simple, profound magic of a good show. His story gently reminds us that sometimes the greatest treasures are found not in what is real, but in what we allow ourselves to dream. making money by entertaining people. Have you ever wondered why we pay for stories, for music that makes our hearts ache or soar, or for the thrill of a movie? It feels like magic, doesn't it? To make a living, even become incredibly rich, simply by making other people feel something. But here's the thing, it's as old as humanity itself. For centuries, long before TikTok or Hollywood, there were storytellers by campfires, musicians playing simple flutes, and dancers moving under the stars. They brought joy, escape, and understanding to their communities, and in return, they were often honored, fed, and supported. The basic idea hasn't changed much. People pay for an experience that moves them, that takes them away from their daily worries, or connects them to something bigger. Think about your favorite musician or you. They share a part of themselves, their talent, their humor, their unique way of seeing the world. When you listen to a song that perfectly captures how you feel, or watch a video that makes you laugh until you cry, it's a powerful connection. It's like when a scientist explains a complex idea, making it suddenly clear and exciting. That moment of aha, or yes, that's exactly it, is incredibly valuable. And when millions of people feel that same deep connection, that's when immense wealth can be created. It's not just about flashy shows or big screens. It's about understanding the human heart. It's about knowing what makes us laugh, what makes us cry, what makes us dream. These entertainers, these creators, they hold up a mirror to our own feelings, or they open a window to worlds we can only imagine. And that's why it matters so much. It reminds us that even in a world focused on numbers and money, the deepest riches often come from stirring the soul, from sharing a moment of shared emotion. It's a beautiful thought that art and feeling can build empires, not just of wealth, but of connection. To J.P. Morgan, the man who saved America's money. Have you ever thought about what happens when people suddenly lose faith in money itself? It's a scary idea, right? Imagine everyone in a country suddenly believes their money in the bank isn't safe. What happens then? They rush to take it all out, and that's called a financial panic. Banks don't keep every single dollar in their vault. They lend much of it out. So, if everyone demands their cash at once, the banks simply run out, and the whole system can crumble. Here's the thing. J.P. Morgan lived when America didn't have a central bank, like the Federal Reserve, to act as a safety net. When panics hit, things got truly terrifying. But here's what happened. J.P. Morgan, a man of incredible wealth and influence, stepped up, not once, but twice. When fear gripped the nation's finances, he gathered other powerful bankers. He used his own vast fortune and convinced them to pool their money too, putting this massive sum back into the system. It wasn't just about the money, it was about showing everyone that trust could be restored. Think of it like this. Imagine your school has a fundraising drive, and all the money collected goes into a shared account. Most of that money is quickly put to use, maybe to buy equipment. But then, a rumor spreads that the fund is empty. Everyone gets scared and demands their donation back. Right now, if there isn't enough cash immediately available, panic sets in, and the whole project could fail. J.P. Morgan was like the person who, seeing the fear, stepped forward, putting a huge amount of their own money into the fund, and getting others to chip in too, just to show everyone everything would be okay. His actions weren't about greed in those moments. They were about stopping a complete financial meltdown. It shows us that sometimes, the greatest challenges aren't about a lack of resources, but a lack of faith. A single person, with enough courage and influence, can stand against a tide of fear. It makes you wonder about the quiet strength it takes to hold things together when the world feels like it's falling apart. Banking when things got scary. Have you ever felt a deep sense of worry, like when a secret you trusted someone with felt unsafe? That gut feeling of uncertainty, but about something much bigger. That's a little like what happens when people start to lose faith in their banks. See, a bank is more than just a place to keep money. It's built on a quiet, powerful promise. The promise that your savings, your hard-earned dollars, are safe there, waiting for you whenever you need them. For hundreds of years, humans have faced the same question. How do we keep our wealth secure? We invented banks for this very reason, to gather our resources and protect them together. This simple idea, this trust, is the unseen glue that holds so much of our world's money system together. But here's the thing. When fear begins to whisper, what if that promise is broken? What if the money isn't really there? That whisper can quickly turn into a shout. When enough people hear that shout, they rush to take their money out, all at once. This is called a bank run. It's not just about paper money or digital numbers anymore. It's about a deep, chilling fear spreading from person to person. It feels like the ground beneath everyone is suddenly unstable, and everything they thought was solid might just crumble. Think of it like this. Imagine your whole class is working on a big group project, and everyone is counting on each other. But then, one person starts to worry that no one else is doing their part. Then another, and another. Soon, that worry makes everyone stop working, and the project falls apart. Not because it was actually doomed, but because the belief in it disappeared. The fear created the very problem it worried about. And that's why banking, and so many other parts of our shared world, relies on more than just facts. It relies on belief. It's about all of us trusting each other, even when things feel uncertain. It gently reminds us how deeply connected we all are, and how much our shared feelings, whether calm or scared, can truly shape the world around us. Emperor Shenzong, China's wealthy leader. Have you ever really thought about what it means to be incredibly rich? Not just rich like a famous singer, but rich beyond almost all imagining. We're talking about Emperor Shenzong of China. He lived over 900 years ago. When historians look at his wealth, adjusting it for today's money, he comes out as one of the wealthiest people to ever exist. It's a number so big, it's hard to even picture. Shenzong ruled during the Song dynasty. China was a global leader in business and new ideas. He didn't just have money in a bank. He basically owned the entire country itself. Vast farmlands, bustling cities, all the factories making goods, and the taxes from everyone working. He controlled the whole system. It was like owning the entire national economy. He shaped what got built and how people lived. Imagine if one person in your town didn't just own a big house, but owned every store, every office building, every farm, and even the school. And they decided what happened with all of it. That gives you a small idea of the power and wealth Shenzong held. This kind of wealth feels almost unreal. It brings immense power, for sure. But it also comes with deep responsibilities and a feeling of being very alone at the top. To have the fate of so many people in your hands, to make decisions that affect millions, that's a heavy weight. It makes you wonder if having everything truly brings happiness, or just a different kind of burden. It reminds us that even with all that money, a person still faces huge feelings and choices. Ancient China's surprising riches. Have you ever stopped to think about where true wealth comes from? We often picture glittering piles of gold, or jewels in a king's crown. But what if the greatest riches in history were held by empires so vast, their power felt like a force of nature? Let's talk about ancient China, a place that held a kind of wealth many don't even imagine. This wasn't just a country, it was a world unto itself, spanning huge distances. Imagine a land with millions upon millions of people, all working, creating, and building. They had incredible farms, growing food for everyone. They invented paper, gunpowder, and silk, treasures that traveled the famous Silk Road to the ends of the known world. Here's the thing, when you control all of that, the land, the people, the inventions, the trade routes, the power you hold is a kind of wealth beyond counting. The emperors of China, often called the sons of heaven, didn't just have personal gold coins. They commanded an entire civilization. Think of it like a massive ant colony. No single ant has its own treasure chest, but the colony itself is incredibly rich with resources, food, and organized strength. The people who advised the emperor, who managed the vast armies, who oversaw the farming, or who controlled the silk trade routes, they didn't just own fortunes, they were part of a system so grand, so rich in resources and human potential, that their influence was almost limitless. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is wealth truly just about how much you can personally gather? Or is it also about the immense scale of what you can build, create, and inspire? Ancient China whispers to us across the centuries, suggesting that the deepest riches might be found not just in a single vault, but in the heart of a civilization itself, in the sheer force of human ingenuity and collective effort. Mansa Musa's epic journey and gold. Imagine having so much wealth. It actually changed the world around you, just by giving some away. Could that even be real? We're talking about Mansa Musa, an emperor from West Africa, who lived a long time ago. His story isn't just about money, it's about impact. It's about how one person's incredible fortune rippled through history. He ruled the Mali Empire in the 1300s, a time when gold was everything, and the Mali Empire had a lot of it. Here's the thing, think about a modern-day billionaire. Now, imagine they also owned the main source of the world's most valuable resource. That was Mansa Musa. His wealth wasn't just in banks, it was in the ground, it was in the trade routes, it was in the very heart of his empire. The value we place on things, like gold, can shift. But for him, gold wasn't just shiny metal. It was power. It was a way to build great cities and centers of learning. It showed the world how mighty his empire was. It's a bit like when you have a super popular new video game, or a trending clothing item that everyone wants. If you were the only person who could make that thing, and you had an endless supply, imagine your influence. Mansa Musa had that kind of control, but with gold. When he went on a pilgrimage to Mecca, his journey was legendary. He traveled with thousands of people, camels loaded with gold. He gave so much gold away in Cairo, he actually lowered its value there for years. It was like dropping too much sugar into a small cup of tea. Suddenly, it's too sweet, and the balance is off. His generosity had an unexpected economic effect. His story makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does true wealth really mean? Is it just about having the most, or is it about what you do with what you have? It's about the lasting mark you leave, even if it's an accidental one. Mansa Musa's journey wasn't just a parade of riches. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes, even the greatest generosity can reshape the world in ways no one expects. It shows us that influence is a much deeper thing than just counting coins. It makes you think about how our actions, big or small, can echo for centuries. When a trip could make you famous and broke a city, have you ever thought about how much courage it took to travel long ago? Not just a quick plane ride, but a true journey into the unknown. People then left home for years, sometimes never knowing if they'd return. They faced storms, deserts, and dangers we can barely imagine. But if they made it back with something new and rare, like vibrant silk, exotic spices, or shimmering gold, they could become incredibly rich and famous. These weren't just personal adventures, they were massive gambles. A successful trip could make a merchant a legend, or even make an entire city powerful. Think of cities like Venice, which grew wealthy because its ships sailed afar, bringing back riches. But here's the other side. For every city that boomed, another might struggle. The search for these riches often wasn't fair. The discoveries made by one culture sometimes meant taking from another. The wealth flowing into some parts of the world often came from people losing homes, freedom, or their way of life. It's a hard truth. When one group gained so much, another often paid a deep, silent cost. Imagine you and your friends find an amazing secret spot to hang out after school. It's perfect, and you all feel special. But then, word gets out. Everyone from school starts going there. The spot gets crowded, messy, and maybe the original owner gets upset and closes it down. Your discovery, which started great for your small group, ended up ruining it for everyone, and even hurt the place itself. So, those ancient quests for fame and fortune were never simple. They were huge bets with consequences that rippled across continents and through time. The dream of incredible wealth reshaped the world, but it also left behind pain and sorrow. It makes you wonder, what's the real price of progress? And how do we truly measure success when it's built on hidden costs paid by others? It's a heavy thought, but an important one. King Solomon, wisdom and wealth. What truly makes someone rich? Is it just piles of gold and jewels? Or is there something more? When we look back at history, King Solomon of ancient Israel often comes up. He's known as one of the wealthiest people ever to live. But here's the thing. His story isn't just about money. It's deeply about wisdom, and how that wisdom led to incredible wealth. Solomon was a king, and he faced huge responsibilities. He had to lead his people, make hard choices, and keep peace. A powerful story says this: when God offered Solomon anything he wanted, Solomon didn't ask for a long life, or victory over his enemies, or even for riches. Instead, he asked for an understanding heart, to judge his people fairly, and know right from wrong. And that's why it matters. Because he chose wisdom first, everything else followed. His kingdom prospered, trade routes grew, and influence spread far and wide. His wealth became legendary, but it sprang from a deeper source. Think about it like this. Imagine you're playing a video game, where you can either get a powerful weapon now, or you can choose to level up your character's intelligence and skill. If you just grab the weapon, you might win a few battles, but you won't understand deeper strategies. If you choose skill and understanding, you'll learn how to use any weapon effectively, solve harder puzzles, and succeed more. Solomon chose the skill path. His wisdom was his best tool, helping him build a peaceful, rich nation. So when we think about true wealth, maybe it isn't just about what you own, Perhaps it's about what you know, and how you use that knowledge to make the world, or even just your own life, better. Solomon's story quietly suggests that the riches we cultivate within ourselves, like good judgment and understanding, might be the most valuable treasures of all. The biblical king with legendary gold, have you ever really stopped to think about what it means to be truly, unbelievably rich? Not just having enough for what you want, but having so much that your wealth becomes a story, a legend told across centuries. Well, here's the thing. When we talk about the richest people in history, one name often comes up that feels almost mythical: King Solomon. According to ancient writings, like those in the Bible, his wealth was so immense, it's hard for our minds to even grasp. Imagine a world where gold wasn't just in small coins, but was used to cover great shields, where silver was so common in his city, Jerusalem. It was said to be like ordinary stones. Think about vast palaces filled with precious woods, ivory thrones, and chariots plated in gold. Every year, fleets of ships would arrive, bringing back tons of pure gold, along with exotic spices and rare animals. This wasn't just a king with a lot of money. This was a person whose entire kingdom was built on an almost unimaginable stream of riches. It wasn't just wealth. It was the power to build incredible things, like the famous temple, a place of stunning beauty. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does that kind of wealth feel like? Is it freeing, or is it a heavy crown to wear? Think about it this way. Imagine you have a jar, and every day, someone adds a tiny, beautiful gem to it. At first, it's just a few, but over many, many years, that jar isn't just full, it's overflowing, becoming a mountain of sparkling treasure. That's a bit like Solomon's wealth. It just kept growing, becoming something so massive it felt almost magical. But here's what I found. While the stories focus on his gold, they also speak of his wisdom, and that's why it matters. Maybe the real treasure isn't just how much stuff you gather. Perhaps it's about what you choose to build, what you learn, and the quiet understanding you gain along the way. In the end, even the legendary glitter of gold might not shine as brightly as a life lived with wisdom and purpose. Crass is Rome's richest and greedy guy. Have you ever felt like you just needed something, like a new game or a special snack? Now imagine that feeling, but for everything: money, power, glory, and it never goes away. That's a bit like Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of ancient Rome's richest people, who lived over 2,000 years ago. He had incredible wealth, but it never seemed to be enough. Here's the thing about Crassus. He got rich in a really clever, but also really cold way. Rome was a city of wood buildings, and fires happened all the time. When a fire broke out, Crassus would show up with his own private fire brigade. But they wouldn't put out the fire right away. Instead, Crassus would offer to buy the burning building and the surrounding ones for a super low price from the desperate owner. If the owner said no, Crassus would just let it burn. If they said yes, his team would then put out the fire, and Crassus would own the land, often rebuilding it and selling it for a huge profit. It's like being incredibly thirsty. You drink one glass of water and you feel better, but Crassus was like someone who drank a whole pitcher and still felt a burning need for more, always more. His thirst wasn't for water, but for gold, and then for power, and then for military victories. Even with all his money, he craved the respect and fame that came from leading armies, a different kind of richness. He tried to buy his way into glory, spending fortunes to equip soldiers. But here's what happened. This constant hunger, this need for more and more, can make a person blind. Crassus died trying to achieve a military victory that was far beyond his skill, losing everything in a distant land. So, we have to wonder, what did all that immense wealth truly buy him in the end? Was it happiness, peace, or lasting respect? Maybe real riches are found in things that money can't set a price on, like wisdom or true contentment. How fire department money made him rich. Did you ever think about the quiet safety we just expect? Imagine a time when a single spark could destroy an entire town. Homes, shops, everything gone. This constant fear deeply affected everyone. So, how could someone get rich from fire protection? It wasn't by charging for fires. That would feel wrong. Here's the thing. This clever person saw more than flames. They understood how constant danger stopped cities from growing. Who would build a home or factory if it could vanish overnight? Property held little value. It was too risky to invest there. But if a city offered strong, organized fire services, everything changed. People felt secure enough to build, settle, start businesses. Land became valuable, buildings held their worth, businesses thrived, people could get insurance, adding security. This person grasped the simple truth: stability makes a place prosperous. By investing in early fire departments, they weren't just fighting fires, they built the foundation of trust and safety for the community. They made the city a reliable, appealing place. As the city grew richer, their own investments grew right along with it. Think of a community garden. If the fence isn't strong, animals eat everything. A good fence lets plants grow. This protection makes the garden's bounty possible. So, this wasn't about profiting from disaster. It was about seeing a human need for safety, providing a solution, and watching that security allow a community and the investor to flourish. It reminds us that lasting wealth often comes from making the world a safer, more stable place for all. The Vanderbilt family's mansions. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have more money than you could possibly spend in a lifetime? The Vanderbilt family knew they were so incredibly rich. They built homes that weren't just houses. They were more like personal castles, grand and sprawling, stretching across huge pieces of land. Imagine rooms so vast your voice would echo, and walls covered in luxurious velvet and gleaming gold. These places stood as towering symbols of their power. These magnificent places, like the breakers in Newport, weren't just about having a roof over their heads. Here's the thing: they were built to show everyone just how powerful and important the Vanderbilts were. It was a kind of silent competition, like saying, "My house is bigger, grander, more stunning than yours." Every sculpted ceiling, every marble statue, was meant to impress and declare their place in the world. But think about it this way: when you really want a new game console or a cool pair of sneakers, getting it feels amazing, right? For a little while, then, that feeling often fades, and you start looking for the next big thing. That's a bit like what happened with these mansions. Each new grander house was built, maybe in the hope it would fill a deeper need for happiness or lasting respect. Walking through the often empty halls of these places today, you can almost feel the echoes of their grand parties, but also a quiet, lingering question: did all that expensive stone and glittering crystal truly bring them lasting joy or a deep sense of peace? Did the sheer size of their wealth make them feel truly complete inside? And that's why it matters. These homes, so full of riches, remind us that the deepest parts of us might not be satisfied by things we can touch or buy. True richness, perhaps, is found in the simple moments we share with others, and the genuine connections we build, not just in the magnificent walls that surround us. Showing off your money, Gilded Age style ***, showing off your money. Gilded Age style ***. Have you ever seen someone with so much of something, maybe toys, or fancy clothes, or the latest tech, that they just have to show it off? It's a human thing, wanting to be noticed, to feel important. But what happens when that feeling gets mixed with truly unbelievable amounts of money? Well, that's a bit like what happened during a time called the Gilded Age in American history, mostly in the late 1800s. Imagine a golden surface, shining brightly, but underneath, maybe not everything was so perfect. This was a time when a few people became incredibly, almost impossibly, rich. Think of names like Vanderbilt or Rockefeller, and with all that money, they built palaces disguised as homes, throwing parties that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. They wore diamonds like everyday jewelry and traveled on private trains. It wasn't just about comfort, it was a loud announcement. Look at me. Look at what I have. Here's the thing. It was a way of showing power, a way of drawing a clear line between them and everyone else. It was like a peacock spreading its tail, not just because it's beautiful, but because it says, "I am the biggest, the best." But on a human level, it makes you wonder, did all those grand displays, those endless parties, truly bring lasting joy? Or was it a way to fill something else, something deeper? Think about it this way. Imagine you have a special treat, like a whole box of your favorite cookies. You could eat them all yourself, or you could share some with friends. When you show off, it's like having that whole box, and making sure everyone sees you have it, but not necessarily sharing. All that visible wealth, sometimes right next door to real hardship, leaves a heavy question. Did all the gold and sparkle truly make their owners happy, or did it just create a lonely pedestal, admired from afar, but never truly connected? It's a quiet thought, but sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't the ones you can buy, or even show off. The Astor family, fur, and real estate. Have you ever wondered how someone could become incredibly rich? Not from inventing a new app, but from something as simple as animal fur. It sounds like a story from a long time ago, doesn't it? John Jacob Astor began his journey to great wealth with beaver pelts. People in Europe wanted fancy hats, and soft beaver fur was perfect. So, Astor traded. He bought fur for little money and sold it for much more. But it wasn't just about the fur itself. He had a special way of seeing things, a quiet understanding of what the future might hold. As he made money, he didn't just spend it. Instead, he looked at New York City. Picture it. Back then, it wasn't the giant, busy place we know today. It was growing, but still new. Astor started buying land, plots of dirt miles away from where most people lived. People probably thought he was a little strange, buying what seemed like empty fields, or even swampy ground so far out. But he understood something truly deep about cities. He knew they would expand. Cities breathe and grow, much like a living thing reaching its branches out further. It's a lot like planting a tiny tree seed. You don't see a giant oak tree the next day, do you? But if you pick just the right spot, where it gets sun and water, and you give it lots of time, that small seed can grow into something immense and lasting. Astor was planting those kinds of seeds. He bought land when it was cheap, almost forgotten. As New York stretched and filled out, that same land became unbelievably valuable. New streets were built, buildings went up, and suddenly, his swampy land was prime real estate. His story makes you pause and think about the quiet power of choices. One person's decision to buy something small, something overlooked, can ripple through time and shape not just their own life, but the lives of many others for generations. It wasn't just about collecting money for Astor. It was about seeing possibilities, about building a future. It shows us that true wealth isn't just about having a lot of money right now. It's about having the vision to understand how the world might change, and the patience to let something small grow into something grand. It's about a silent kind of wisdom. New York City, built on their money. Have you ever looked up at the towering buildings of New York City and wondered who truly dreamed them into existence? Who laid the first stone, not just with their hands, but with their fortunes? Here's the thing. Much of what we see in that amazing city today, the grand avenues, the iconic skyline, started with the deep pockets of a few incredibly wealthy people from long ago. Imagine families like the Astors, the Vanderbilts, or the Rockefellers. They made huge amounts of money in industries like fur trading, railroads, or oil. Instead of just keeping it, they poured their immense wealth into making New York grow. They bought vast amounts of land when it was still mostly open fields. They funded the building of incredible mansions, public libraries, and entire neighborhoods. Their choices, made over a century ago, weren't just about personal luxury. They were about shaping the very future of a metropolis. It's like they planted their wealth like seeds, and New York City blossomed around those financial roots. Don't think of it this way. When you decide to save up your allowance for something big, like a new video game or a special trip, that one choice starts a chain reaction. Every small amount you put aside adds up to something huge later. The decisions of these rich families were like that, but on an epic scale. Their investments weren't just lines on a bank statement. They were the blueprints for a world-famous city. It makes you feel something, doesn't it? To walk through streets and beneath buildings that are living monuments to decisions made long before you were born. It reminds us that every brick, every grand design, holds a piece of history, an echo of power. It's a silent story of wealth that continues to shape our present. The city stands, a testament to what vast fortunes, poured into the ground, can become. Stephen Gerrard, Shipping and Banking Riches. Have you ever wondered what it takes for someone to start with almost nothing and end up changing a whole city? It's a journey filled with huge risks and quiet determination. This is the story of Stephen Gerrard, a man whose life reminds us that true wealth isn't just about what you gather, but what you leave behind. Stephen Gerrard was an orphan from France who came to America as a young sailor. He didn't have much, but he had a sharp mind and an incredible will. He began by owning ships, moving goods across oceans. Here's the thing, he was brilliant at seeing opportunities when others saw only danger. During wars, when many were scared to send ships out, Gerrard saw a chance. He took the risk, and his ships kept sailing, making him incredibly rich. Then, he did something even bigger. He became a banker, lending money when banks were scarce and America was young. Imagine a time when your town needed a new school or a road, but no one had enough money to build it. A person like Gerrard could step in, offering the funds needed to make those dreams real. He wasn't always a popular person. He was known for being quite solitary and focused, but his money helped build the very foundations of American finance. Think about a time when you're building a big project for school. You might start with a small idea, but with every step, every piece of research, every drawing, it grows. It takes effort, and sometimes you have to keep going, even when it's hard. That was Gerard, but on a massive scale, building an empire of ships and banks, piece by careful piece. Gerard lived a long life, always working, always building. But here's what really matters. When he died, he gave almost all his immense fortune away. He left millions to the city of Philadelphia to build schools and help orphans. He remembered what it felt like to have nothing. His actions taught us that while money can be made in lonely ways, its truest power might be found in how it helps others. Long after we are gone, it's a quiet message about legacy, echoing through time. An orphan who became super rich. Have you ever felt completely alone, like you had to figure everything out by yourself? Imagine being a child with no parents, no home, just you against the world. That's how life started for some of the wealthiest people in history. They began with nothing, absolutely no advantages, no one to guide them or offer a helping hand. Back then, being an orphan wasn't just sad, it was incredibly difficult. There were no real safety nets like we have today, no social workers, no foster homes in the way we understand them. Children often had to work from a very young age, sometimes just to eat. They faced hunger, cold, and a constant struggle for survival. It took an unimaginable amount of courage and cleverness just to make it through each day. Here's the thing, some of these kids, despite all that hardship, didn't just survive, they thrived. They learned to be resourceful, to trust their own instincts, and to spot opportunities others missed because they were too busy just trying to get by. Think about it like this. Imagine you want to build the coolest treehouse ever, but you have no tools, no wood, and nobody to help you. Most people would give up right away, but a special few, they might find discarded wood, borrow a hammer, and slowly, piece by piece, build something incredible just through sheer will. These historical figures were like that. Their early struggles didn't break them. They forged them into incredibly strong, determined adults. Their wealth wasn't just about money in the bank later on. It was also about the deep resilience they built within themselves when no one was there to protect them. It reminds us that even when life gives you almost nothing, the human spirit, with its quiet strength and stubborn hope, can still build something truly amazing. Sometimes, the greatest riches aren't just found in fortunes, but in the journey of overcoming everything. A.T. Stewart. Department store. King. Have you ever walked into a huge store, maybe a Target or Macy's, and just felt that buzz? So many things in one place, clothes, perfumes, things for your home, all organized and easy to find. It feels normal to us now, right? But long ago, this kind of shopping didn't exist. It took a quiet, determined man named Alexander Turney Stewart to imagine it. Stewart was born in Ireland in the early 1800s. He came to America with very little, but he had a vision. He started with a small linen shop in New York. Back then, most stores sold only one type of item, and prices were often negotiated. Imagine trying to buy a shirt and a hat and a new rug, having to go to 3 different places, arguing over prices at each one. Here's the thing, Stewart saw a better way. He opened a store where everything was under one roof, with clear fixed prices. No more haggling. He made his store beautiful, almost like a palace, full of light and amazing displays. It was a place where people could not just buy things, but also dream a little, feel a sense of wonder. Think about how we stream movies and TV shows today. Before, you might rent a DVD from one store for a movie, then go to another store for music CDs. Now, services like Netflix or Spotify put it all in one easy place. That's kind of what Stewart did for shopping. He didn't just sell goods, he sold an experience, a new way of living, and that's why it matters. His stores made shopping accessible and exciting for many. They changed how cities looked and how people spent their time. It makes you think, doesn't it? How one person's idea, born from a simple need, can slowly, quietly reshape the world around us, and even change the way we feel about our everyday lives. Before Amazon, there was this guy. Have you ever stopped to think about how much one person could truly own? Today, we see people like Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon, and their wealth seems unbelievable. But imagine someone even richer, long before the internet. Someone who controlled everything people needed to light their homes and get around. This wasn't a made-up story. His name was John D. Rockefeller. He lived when oil was becoming super important, like electricity or the internet is now. He didn't just sell oil. He bought the land it came from, owned the trains and ships that moved it, had the factories that refined it, and even the stores that sold it. His company was Standard Oil. Back then, it was almost impossible to live your life without using something from his company. When we adjust his money for today, he was far wealthier than anyone alive now. Think about that. It's like if one person owned every single phone company, every internet provider, and every gaming console maker, and you couldn't use your phone or play games without them. The power that comes with owning something so essential, something everyone relies on daily, is huge. People depended on his company every day, often without even realizing it. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What must it feel like to have that much wealth, that much control over so many lives? It's not just about fancy houses or private jets. It's about shaping how the world works, making choices that affect millions of families. It reminds us how deeply our everyday lives are tied to the resources around us, and to the people who control them. True wealth, sometimes, isn't just numbers. It's the quiet, invisible threads that connect us all. Hetty Green, the Witch of Wall Street. Have you ever thought about what it means to be truly rich? Not just having a lot of money, but what that money does to you, or for you, and how people see you because of it. Our story now moves to a woman named Hetty Green, often called the Witch of Wall Street. It's a harsh name, right? But here's the thing. She was one of the richest people ever, in her time. She had so much money, more than many countries even had back then. If we adjust her wealth for inflation today, she would easily be worth billions, making her among the wealthiest individuals in history. But here's what's truly haunting about her story. Hetty Green lived like she was poor. She wore old, worn-out clothes. She ate cold oatmeal to save money on heating fuel. She wouldn't turn on the heat in her own house, even in winter. And she moved from cheap apartment to cheap apartment, all to avoid paying taxes. She had millions upon millions, yet she wouldn't spend a single extra penny on comfort or basic needs. She once refused to pay for a doctor for her son's leg injury, insisting on finding free clinics. And that tragic decision eventually led to his leg being amputated. Imagine having all the money in the world, enough to buy anything, but choosing to live in such a way, with such heartbreaking consequences. This might make us wonder, what's the point of being so rich if you never enjoy it? It's kind of like having a huge collection of amazing video games, but never actually playing them. You own them, but you don't get the fun or the experience they offer. Hetty's life shows us a deep and sad truth. Sometimes, the obsession with getting and keeping money can become more important than comfort, family, or even basic human kindness. Her immense wealth didn't bring her joy or peace. Instead, it built a cold, lonely wall around her, making her feared and isolated. It makes you think about what true richness really means, beyond just the numbers in a bank account or the fear of losing it. Maybe real wealth is found in connection, not cash. A woman who saved every penny VOICOO. Have you ever thought about what it means to truly save? Not just putting a few dollars aside, but saving every single penny, no matter the cost. This is the story of Hetty Green, a woman whose life shows us how extreme saving can build incredible wealth, but also deeply shape a soul. Hetty lived in the late 1800s, a time when many were trying to get rich quick, but Hetty did the opposite. She was born into money, but her true genius was holding on to it and making it grow. She became known as the Witch of Wall Street for her sharp investment mind and her famous way of living. She wore the same old black dress every day until it was threadbare. She reportedly never turned on the heat, even in cold winters, and ate simple, cheap meals. Her frugality was so extreme, some believed it even affected her family's health decisions. Here's the thing about her kind of saving. It's like planting a tiny seed and never watering it, but also never letting anyone else touch it. Imagine you have a small amount of money, and you don't spend any of it. Instead, you put it somewhere it can slowly grow, like a tiny snowball rolling down a hill, picking up more snow and getting bigger and bigger. That's what Hetty did with her investments. She didn't spend, she just let it grow, year after year, until she had a fortune worth billions in today's money. But her story makes you wonder, did all that money truly bring her joy? Or did the fear of losing even a single penny overshadow everything else? It reminds us that while money can provide comfort, real richness often comes from the connections we make, the kindness we share, and the warmth of a life truly lived. It's a quiet question to ponder. What are we truly saving for? Russell Sage, lending big bucks. Have you ever wondered what it's like to have so much money that your money actually makes more money for you, without you even lifting a finger? It sounds like magic, but for someone like Russell Sage, it was his whole life. He wasn't building railroads or selling oil. Instead, he became one of the richest people ever by doing one thing really well: lending big bucks. Think of it like this. Imagine you lend a friend $5 for lunch. They pay you back the $5 and maybe even buy you a small snack as a thank you. That's a simple loan. Now, picture that with millions of dollars, where the thank you is a set amount of extra money, called interest. That's what Sage did. He'd give money to businesses or other people who needed it to grow. They promised to pay him back the original amount, plus a percentage of it. Later, here's the thing. Back in the 1800s, getting large sums of money wasn't as easy. Banks were different. Russell Sage stepped in. He had money and was willing to take a risk. He made sure the risks paid off. He understood that patience and smart choices could turn a pile of money into an even bigger pile. It wasn't about quick wins. It was about the slow, steady growth of wealth, and that's why it matters. Russell Sage showed that sometimes the greatest power isn't in what you create, but in how you let your resources work for you. He played a quiet, yet incredibly powerful role in the economy of his time. It makes you think about the different ways people can shape the world, doesn't it? Sometimes, it's not with a hammer, but with a pen and a ledger, carefully watching the numbers grow. Getting rich by helping others get loans. Imagine a dream, a big wish that needs money to come true. Maybe it's a new home for your family, a safe place, or starting a small shop that sells your favorite things. But here's the problem. What if you don't have the cash right now? What if your pockets are empty, and that dream feels impossibly far away? It's a feeling many have known throughout time. This is where someone steps in, offering a helping hand, a way to get what you need today, but for a price that grows over time. This is the basic idea behind getting rich by helping others get loans. Someone has money they don't need immediately, often a lot of it. Someone else, often many people, needs money right now for an important purpose. The person with extra money loans it out, and in return, they ask for a little bit extra back when it's paid. That little bit extra is called interest. It's how the lender makes a profit. This isn't a new idea. For thousands of years, people have needed money when they didn't have it, and someone else had extra. From ancient Mesopotamia, where clay tablets recorded debts, to the bustling markets of grand European empires, lenders were always there. They were the ones who held the keys to future possibilities, fueling everything from grand building projects to vast trading journeys across seas. Think about it like this. Your friend really wants to borrow your cool new video game. You say, "Sure, you can borrow it, but you have to lend me your favorite book for a week in return." You're giving something valuable, your game, and getting something extra back, their book. That extra something is a bit like interest. It's the cost, or the trade, for using what isn't yours yet, for getting something now you couldn't have otherwise. This system, lending money, has incredible power to shape the world. It can build amazing things, spark new ideas, and truly lift people up, giving them a chance to chase their biggest dreams and improve their lives. But here's the thing. It can also make life incredibly hard, if not managed with fairness and care. The richest people in history often understood this power better than anyone. They knew how to make this system work for them, sometimes by genuinely offering a bridge to a better future, and sometimes, well, by simply holding the essential keys to what others desperately needed, turning those fundamental needs into their own immense wealth. It makes you think about the choices people make and the quiet power held in a simple promise to repay, doesn't it? Jay Gould, the train tycoon who got nasty. Have you ever wondered how much someone would change just to become incredibly wealthy? Jay Gould was a man who lived in the 1800s, a time when America was growing fast, like a wild, untamed land. He built railroads, stretching metal tracks across the country, connecting towns and cities. This made him powerful and, yes, super rich. But here's the thing about Jay Gould. He didn't play nice. People called him the Mephistopheles of Wall Street, which basically means they thought he was cunning and almost evil. He was brilliant, but his brilliance often had a sharp, cold edge. He would buy and sell companies, sometimes just to destroy rivals, not always to build something new. He got into fierce railroad wars, cutting prices so low that smaller companies couldn't compete, forcing them out of business. Imagine you're playing a big, important game. You want to win, right? You want to be the best. But what if winning meant bending the rules, or finding unfair loopholes, just to crush your opponents and take what they had? That's a bit like what Gould did. He saw business as a battle, and he fought to win, no matter the cost to others. He manipulated the stock market, played dirty tricks, and made enemies everywhere he went. His name became a symbol for extreme greed and ruthlessness in a rapidly changing America. It makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What's the real price of that kind of power, that kind of wealth? Does it feel good to be on top if you got there by stepping on everyone else? This story makes us wonder about the choices we make and what truly matters in the end, having the most or having a clear conscience. It's a deep question about what it means to be successful and what we might lose along the way. Sometimes being rich meant being mean. Have you ever stopped to wonder if being incredibly rich always made people good? Like if having all that money and power automatically made them kind or fair to everyone around them. Here's what history sometimes tells us. When we look back at some of the people who held unbelievable amounts of wealth, their fortunes often grew from ground that would make us feel really uneasy today. It wasn't always about creating something wonderful or making the world better. Sometimes, being truly rich meant you had to be really tough, or even cruel, to reach that top spot. Imagine a time when there weren't many rules, or the rules only applied to the poor. Powerful rulers, like ancient pharaohs or medieval lords, didn't just earn their money. They owned land, and the people on that land. Their wealth came from the hard, often forced, labor of others. They might take what they wanted, build their empires, and live in luxury, while the majority struggled just to survive. Or think about the early days of big factories. Some owners became super wealthy by paying workers tiny wages, making them work incredibly long hours in dangerous places. Their riches were built on the backs of people who had no other choice. It's a bit like when you're playing a game, and one player has so much power that they can change the rules just for themselves, making it impossible for anyone else to win fairly. They might have all the points, but you know it wasn't a fair game. This way of collecting immense wealth, through unfairness or even cruelty, shines a light on something important for us now. It shows us that money itself is just a thing, a tool, and the way people get that tool, the path they walk to accumulate so much, reveals more about who they truly are than the size of their bank account. It reminds us that real greatness, a legacy that truly matters, often comes not from how much you gather for yourself, but from how you treat the people around you and the world you live in. It makes you pause and think about what kind of mark you want to leave behind. Jim Bridger, trapper and landowner. What does it truly mean to be rich? We often think of huge piles of money, shiny cars, or massive mansions. But sometimes, wealth isn't just about cash in a bank. For Jim Bridger, who lived long ago, his riches were different, tied deeply to the land itself. Imagine living when maps were scarce, and vast stretches of America were a mystery. That was Jim Bridger's world, a wild and untamed place. He was a fur trapper, yes, but he became much more. Jim explored places no one else had seen, guiding others through treacherous mountains and across wide-open plains. Because of his deep knowledge, he owned huge areas of land, not just small plots. He knew the rivers, the mountains, the best places to build a fort or find shelter. His wealth wasn't just measured in coins, it was measured in miles of untouched wilderness, in the incredible potential of those lands. Think of it like this. Imagine you're the first to discover a hidden, beautiful park in your town, a place no one else knows about. You don't own it with a deed, but your knowledge of it, your ability to navigate it, that's a kind of power. It's like having a secret superpower to see what others can't yet imagine. Jim Bridger's wealth wasn't just about having, it was about knowing. He understood the rhythm of the wild, the quiet whispers of wind across the plains. He built trading posts that became important stops for settlers moving west. These places, which he essentially founded, were like early versions of big cities today, but born from his vision and hard work. He saw value in the earth, in its untouched beauty and future possibilities, long before others did. His story reminds us that true richness can be found in freedom, in knowing your place in the world, and in the quiet strength of making your own way. It's about finding value in things money can't always buy, like the wide-open sky, the endless horizon, and the peace of a self-made life, a deeper kind of wealth etched into the very soil he walked. The Wild West's hidden fortunes. Have you ever wondered about the quiet corners of history, where fortunes were made, not by kings or conquerors, but by everyday people dreaming big. The Wild West often brings up images of cowboys and vast lands. But here's the thing, it was also a place where immense wealth was dug from the ground, hidden in rivers, or built from nothing. We're talking about money that, when we think about it today, would make even modern billionaires pause. This wasn't about fancy banks. It was about raw grit and pure luck. Imagine a time when rules weren't set. People rushed west, seeking gold, silver, and land. They risked everything, their safety, their lives, on the hope of striking it rich. This wasn't just greed. It was a deep human desire for a better life, for freedom. Many found dust, but some, a lucky few, hit pay dirt that changed their lives forever. Their wealth came from resources no one knew existed. It's kind of like finding a rare trading card in a pack you bought on a whim. Most packs have common cards, right? But sometimes, you pull that super valuable one, worth more than you imagined. That feeling of surprise, of hitting an unexpected jackpot, that's what those Wild West prospectors felt, but on a scale that could buy entire towns. The Wild West teaches us something important. Wealth isn't always about careful planning. Sometimes, it's being in the right place at the right time, with courage to take a huge risk. It shows how quickly fortunes appear, and just as quickly, disappear. It makes you wonder about the true value of things, beyond money. It's a quiet reminder that wealth, like life, is full of surprises. What truly matters is often the journey and the chances we take. The Earl of Northumberland, Old English money. Have you ever wondered what it truly meant to be rich a very, very long time ago? Not with stacks of cash or bank accounts you can check on your phone. Imagine looking at an old, faded map with names and places that feel like whispers from the past. That's a bit like trying to understand the wealth of someone like the Earl of Northumberland. He wasn't rich in our modern way. His fortune wasn't just money in a vault. It was a feeling, a power woven into the very land. Back in medieval England, being powerful meant owning vast stretches of the country. The Earl of Northumberland held thousands of acres. Think about that for a moment. He didn't just own a house. He owned entire forests, fields, rivers, and the villages that sat upon them. Everyone who lived on his land, from farmers to blacksmiths, worked for him, and their loyalty was part of his strength. His wealth was the food grown, the timber cut, the iron mined, and the people who made it all happen. It was like owning your whole town, every single store, every school, every park, and knowing that everyone who lived there was connected to you. That kind of ownership meant immense control, deep respect, and a kind of wealth that's hard for us to picture today. It makes you think, doesn't it, that what we call rich can change so completely over time. This wasn't about quick profits or flashy spending. It was about deep roots, about generations of control over the earth itself. And that, in its own way, feels even more lasting, like the ancient stones of a castle that still stand against the wind. It reminds us that while money changes form, the human desire for security, for influence, and for a place in the world stays very much the same. Land, titles, and generations of wealth. Have you ever wondered why some families seem to just always have money, stretching back longer than anyone can remember? It's a bit like a hidden stream, flowing under the surface of history, connecting to deep old wells. For many of the wealthiest people who ever lived, their riches weren't just earned in one lifetime. Here's the thing, it started with land and titles. Imagine a time when owning land wasn't just about having a house and a yard. It meant you owned everything on that land, the farms, the forests, the people who lived there and worked it. This wasn't just money in a bank, it was power itself. Kings, queens, and powerful nobles weren't rich because they started a big company. They were rich because they were given, or took, huge chunks of land. And with that land came titles, duke, baron, lord, which basically meant you were in charge. You collected taxes, and you held all the cards. This wealth then passed down, generation after generation. It was like planting an oak tree centuries ago. Each year, it grows a little bigger, its roots go deeper, and its shade covers more ground. So, by the time a grandchild or great-great-grandchild was born, they inherited not just money, but an entire kingdom or massive estate, with all its income and influence built dash and dot. Think about it like this. Imagine playing a video game where your character starts with the best armor, the strongest weapons, and a giant pile of gold, all because your ancestors played the game really well, or perhaps just got lucky with their starting position. While other players start from scratch, you're already at a super high level. That's a bit what inherited land and titles were like. It wasn't about creating something new. It was about protecting and expanding what was already there, given to you. This kind of wealth shows us that success isn't always about what you achieve today. Sometimes it's about the silent gifts of the past, whispering through time, shaping fortunes before you even take your first breath. It makes you wonder about fairness and how the world has always worked for some, but not for others. Pablo Escobar, a dark road to riches have. You ever wondered what it would be like to have more money than you could ever spend? To be so rich that you literally couldn't count all your cash? That was Pablo Escobar, a man who, at one point, was one of the wealthiest people on earth. But here's the thing, his path to riches was incredibly dark, stained with sadness and violence. He didn't earn his fortune by inventing something amazing or starting a helpful business. Instead, he built a massive empire through illegal drugs, specifically cocaine. He pushed a dangerous product that hurt countless lives, tearing apart families and communities. And that path, this road to unbelievable wealth, was paved with fear, pain, and constant conflict. He caused so much suffering, all for money and power. It's kind of like someone who wants to win a race really badly, so they trip every other runner to get to the finish line first. They might cross the line ahead of everyone else and get the trophy, but they didn't really win. They cheated. They hurt others. And that win feels empty, doesn't it? It's not a true victory. Pablo Escobar's story shows us that true wealth isn't just about the number in your bank account. It's about how you get it. When money comes from harming others, it carries a heavy, terrible weight. In the end, all that money, all that power, couldn't buy him peace or a good reputation. It was a hollow empire, built on tears and pain, reminding us that the way we live and the choices we make matter far more than just how much we have. The sad truth about illegal money. Have you ever wondered about money that isn't earned in the light? Money that comes from the shadows, from breaking rules. It might seem like a shortcut, a way to get rich quick, to buy all the things you dream of. But here's the thing, money made illegally carries a heavy, often hidden, price beyond right or wrong. When people get money from illegal acts like selling drugs, stealing, or cheating others, it messes up everything. It's like trying to build a tall tower on quicksand. The foundation is wobbly. No matter how grand the tower looks, it's always ready to collapse. This dirty money doesn't just come, it usually comes from someone else's loss, someone else's pain. For ages, societies have set up fair ways to earn and exchange. When those rules are ignored, when people take what they haven't earned, it hurts the whole community. It creates a spiral. The more someone depends on illegal money, the deeper they sink into a world of secrecy, fear, and violence. It's not just bad choices, it traps you in a life. Think about a student who cheats on a big test. Maybe they get a good grade, and for a moment, it feels like victory. But do they truly feel proud? There's always that gnawing worry of getting caught. They know they didn't earn it. And trust with teachers and classmates. That good grade isn't real. It's built on a lie, affecting how they see themselves and how others might see them if the truth comes out. Illegal money is a bit like that. It might bring fancy cars or big houses, but it rarely brings true peace. It often means looking over your shoulder, living with constant fear, and being isolated. The real sadness is that even unimaginable wealth, when built this way, can't buy genuine happiness, trust, or a clear conscience. It leaves a hollow space, not the full life we hoped for. The Sultan of Brunei, oil, opulence, and riches. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to have a treasure chest that never, ever ran out? A chest so full, it just kept refilling itself, day after day, year after year. Well, in a way, that's a bit like the life of the Sultan of Brunei Hassan. He's the ruler of a very tiny country, but his riches are almost impossible to imagine. Here's what I found. His vast wealth comes from something buried deep beneath his land, oil and natural gas. Brunei is incredibly rich in these resources, and they are worth a fortune on the world market. Think of it like this. For generations, his country has been sitting on a flowing river of liquid gold, constantly being pumped out and sold. This isn't wealth earned from starting a company or inventing something new. It's a gift from the earth itself, inherited through his royal family line. This constant flow of money means the Sultan lives a life most of us can only dream of. Picture a palace with more than 1,000 rooms, some even decorated with gold. Imagine owning hundreds of super expensive cars, or having your own private airplanes, custom-made, just for you. It's a level of luxury so extreme, it almost feels like a story from a fairy tale. It's like if your house had a tap that, instead of water, endlessly poured out your favorite snack or toy. You'd never run out. But here's the thing, does having all that money, all that stuff, truly make someone happy? This kind of wealth shows us the incredible power of natural resources and how they can shape lives and nations. But it also makes you wonder about life itself. Maybe the real treasures are things money can't buy, like close friends, or moments of peace, or the joy of creating something new. This story makes you think about what really matters in the end. A royal family with black gold. Have you ever thought about how some things, like a simple rock or a liquid from the ground, can suddenly become worth more than anything else? Imagine living in a vast, quiet desert, where life is hard, and then, under your feet, you find a treasure that the whole world suddenly needs. This isn't a story from a fairy tale. This is what happened with a certain royal family, whose kingdom sat on top of something called black gold. Black gold is oil, and here's the thing about oil. It changed everything. Before cars, planes, and factories, oil was just ... oil. But as the world started needing fuel for its machines, this dark, gooey liquid became incredibly precious. It was like suddenly finding out that the dirt in your backyard could power every light bulb, every car, and every computer on Earth. So, one family, the royal family of Saudi Arabia, found themselves with more black gold than almost anyone else. They didn't invent it, they didn't mine it in the traditional sense, but their land held vast, untouched oceans of it. This wasn't just a little money. It was wealth so vast, it's hard to even picture. Imagine every kid in your school suddenly needing a special brand of sneaker, and you're the only one with the factory to make them. That's a tiny idea of the power and money that flowed into this family, and that's why it matters. This family's wealth didn't come from building a huge company or creating a new invention. It came from controlling a resource that the modern world couldn't live without. It makes you think, doesn't it? How much of our destiny is shaped by where we are born, and what lies hidden beneath our feet. It shows how a single resource can change a family's fortune, and in turn, the future of an entire nation, forever binding their story to the world's thirst for energy. It's a quiet, heavy thought about power, resources, and the deep connections between them all. Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, investing big. Have you ever looked at a tiny sapling and imagined it as a giant, towering tree? Or heard a new, unfamiliar song and just knew it would be a hit? That feeling, that foresight, is a lot like what Prince Al-Walid bin Talal did, but with huge amounts of money. He's someone who decided to put his belief and his fortune into things he truly saw growing into something extraordinary. Here's the thing about investing big. It means taking a massive, sometimes terrifying leap of faith. It's not about putting a little bit here and a little bit there. It's about looking at a company or an idea and saying, this is going to be massive. Think about when you're choosing a path for your future, maybe deciding on a complicated project for school. You could pick an easy project, something safe, and get a decent grade. Or, you could pour all your energy, all your research, all your creativity into one incredibly challenging project. You know it might be hard, it might even fail, but if it works, the reward, the learning, the recognition would be huge. That takes true courage. A real belief in yourself. Prince Al-Walid often picked companies that weren't obvious winners yet, or even some that were struggling. He saw potential where others saw problems. He would put large sums into tech companies, media giants, even hotels. Sometimes when they were undervalued, it's like finding a rare, uncut gem, and just knowing, that with the right care and vision, it will shine brighter than anything else. This kind of bold decision-making isn't just about money. It's about a unique way of seeing the world, a deep confidence in your own judgment, and a willingness to face huge risks, even uncertainty. When you make such big bets, there's always a fear of losing everything. But there's also the incredible chance to help build something truly impactful, something that changes how we live. It shows us that true wealth isn't just kept safe. Sometimes, it's bravely thrown into the future, hoping it grows into something magnificent for everyone. How one guy buys into everything. Have you ever paused and truly wondered what it would feel like to have so much money, so much influence, that you could own a small piece of almost everything around you? It's not about buying every single store or company directly. It's more subtle. Here's how it works. The super rich don't just buy one big business, they spread their wealth. They buy small parts, called shares, of many different companies. Imagine owning a tiny bit of the shoe company, a sliver of the phone company, and a slice of the movie studio. So, every time people buy shoes, use their phones, or watch a film, a little bit of that money circles back to these few individuals. This is how they buy into everything, without actually owning it all. This kind of power isn't like ancient kings leading armies. It's much quieter, almost invisible. Money spreads out, like deep roots under the earth, connecting to so many parts of our daily lives. Their wealth grows, often without them doing much, simply because it's tied to the choices everyone else makes every day. It's a way for influence to quietly settle everywhere. Here's the thing. Think about your favorite snacks, maybe chips, cookies, and a soda. Imagine one giant company owns the smaller companies that make all three. So, no matter which tasty treat you grab, some of your money flows to that one big parent company. That's how this works. But on a much larger scale, across entire industries, it makes you think, doesn't it? This isn't always about being greedy. Sometimes, it's about a deep need for security, a way to protect vast wealth, no matter what changes in the world. But it also means that a very small number of people hold incredible influence, not with loud commands, but with quiet investments. It's a soft, yet powerful force, always there, just beneath the surface of how we live and what we choose. Amancio Ortega, Zara's fashion fortune. Have you ever walked into a clothing store and felt like everything was new, exciting, and just what you wanted? Or maybe you saw a cool outfit online, and then, almost magically, it was in the stores a week later. This fast, always changing world of fashion owes a lot to a quiet, often unseen man named Amancio Ortega. He's the person behind Zara, a global giant that completely changed how we buy clothes. And his story shows us how seeing a simple human desire can lead to a breathtaking fortune. Imagine a time not so long ago when fashion moved slowly, almost like a grand ship sailing across an ocean. Designers would show their collections, and many months would pass before those exact styles even reached the stores for regular people to buy. It felt like waiting for a handwritten letter to arrive from far away, instead of sending an instant text message. But Amancio Ortega saw something different. He realized that people didn't want to wait anymore. They wanted new things, all the time. Right now, he built a special system that could design, make, and ship clothes to stores around the world in just a few weeks. It was an incredibly smart, almost magical idea that made Zara incredibly powerful. Think about how quickly a new trend can spread through your school. Someone wears a new kind of sneaker or a unique backpack, and suddenly, everyone else wants it. Zara works like that, but on a much, much bigger scale, reaching millions of people. Amancio Ortega understood this deep human desire for novelty, for being fresh and current. He didn't just sell clothes. He sold the feeling of being right on time with what's happening, the joy of finding something new and affordable. And this incredible fortune, built on speed and deeply understanding people's everyday desires, shows us something powerful about life itself. It's not always about having the most expensive or rarest things, but about finding a way to connect with what people truly want, right when they want it. It's a quiet reminder that sometimes the biggest changes and most amazing successes come from simply listening closely to the world around us, and then acting on what we hear with courage. This ability to see and respond, to make things happen quickly, created a legacy that ripples through our closets today. Fast fashion, fast money. Have you ever wondered why clothes sometimes feel like they're meant to be worn only a few times before we toss them away? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? This idea, this way of making and selling clothes, is what we call fast fashion. It's a system where clothes are made quickly, cheaply, and sold to us at low prices. The goal is to keep up with the latest trends, to make us want new things constantly. And here's the thing, it makes a lot of people a lot of money, very fast. Think about it like this. Centuries ago, clothes were a huge investment. They were handmade, passed down, mended, and cherished. A single dress or suit might represent weeks or months of work. But then, as factories grew and machines became smarter, making clothes got much, much faster. Over time, that speed turned into a race. Businesses realized they could make more money if they created new styles every week, instead of just a few times a year. So, the old idea of carefully chosen, lasting clothing faded. Instead, We got clothes that are like disposable paper plates compared to a family heirloom. It's a bit like when you buy a new phone every year just because the new model came out. Even if your old one still works perfectly fine, you feel that pull, that need to have the newest thing. Fast fashion taps into that same human desire for newness, for fitting in, for showing off a little. But this constant chase for the next big thing has a quiet cost. It costs the people who make the clothes, often in difficult conditions, and it costs our planet, with so much waste. Sometimes, thinking about this can feel a little heavy, but it's important to understand how things work behind the scenes. It's about more than just clothes. It's about the value we place on things, and the impact our everyday choices have. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, if true richness comes from always having something new, or from truly valuing what we already possess. Sam Walton, Walmart's simple start. Have you ever wondered how something truly massive, something that touches so many lives, often starts with just one person, in one small place? It's easy to look at a giant company like Walmart today and think it was always this huge, but here's the thing. Every skyscraper begins with a single brick, and every mighty river starts as a tiny trickle. Sam Walton's story is exactly like that. A quiet beginning with a powerful current. Imagine a man, not so different from many others, in a small town called Bentonville, Arkansas. He wasn't born into great wealth, nor did he possess any magic. What he carried was a simple idea, almost like a whisper in his heart. What if everyday people working hard for their families, could buy the things they needed, at prices they could truly afford, right in their own community? Not just luxuries, but the absolute essentials: food, clothes, things for their homes. He believed deeply in giving people a fair chance, in making life a little easier. He didn't just open a store. He listened intently to his customers. He watched their struggles, and he constantly found new ways to help. Think about a tiny seed you plant in the ground. It looks so small, so insignificant, but with consistent care, with the right conditions, it can grow into a strong, beautiful tree, providing shade and fruit for years. That's the kind of steady, humble growth we see in his journey. That small store, that quiet belief in helping neighbors, grew into something far beyond what anyone could have imagined. It wasn't about being the flashiest or having the biggest bank account to begin with. It was about being truly present, about seeing a fundamental human need in the world, the need for dignity in providing for your family, and finding a straightforward, honest way to meet it. So, what seems like just a story about immense wealth is also a profound story about a deep, simple care for ordinary people. It makes you think about how even the smallest, most genuine intentions, nurtured with persistence, can ripple out, touching countless lives, creating a lasting legacy far greater than the individual himself. Discount stores that made a billionaire. Have you ever wondered how selling things for less money could make someone incredibly rich? It sounds a little backward, doesn't it? We usually imagine huge fortunes come from expensive, fancy items, but for some, immense wealth was built on the simple idea of discount stores. Here's what I found. One person, Sam Walton, started a chain called Walmart. His big idea wasn't costly, unique items. Instead, he focused on selling everyday necessities, groceries, clothes, household goods, at the lowest possible prices. He knew that if he offered a slight discount on millions of items, more people would buy. And they did. Think about it like a tiny stream. Each drop of water is small, almost nothing alone. But when millions of those tiny drops flow together, they form a powerful river. Sam Walton's strategy was similar. Each item sold might make only a few pennies of profit, but selling millions every single day makes those pennies add up. They add up into billions. This wasn't just about money though. It was about a simple, powerful idea, making life more affordable for regular families. After big wars, people wanted comfortable lives. They needed everyday things without breaking the bank. These stores made that possible. So, here's the thing. Sometimes, the biggest impact, and even the biggest fortunes, don't come from grand inventions. They come from understanding what people truly need and making it accessible to everyone. It's a quiet power, built on countless small decisions. True value comes from serving many, from making everyday life easier for millions. It's a reflection of how deeply our needs connect us all. Carlos Slim, Hello Phones, and money in Mexico. Have you ever thought about what it would be like if you couldn't just pick up your phone and call or text a friend? Imagine if connecting with someone across town, or even across the street, felt like a huge effort or cost a lot of money. For many people, not too long ago, that was exactly what it was like. In Mexico, for instance, getting a phone line was expensive and hard to do. But then came a man named Carlos Slim Hilu. He saw something others didn't. He saw that communication wasn't just a luxury, it was a basic human need, like needing clean water or a good school. So, in the early 1990s, when the Mexican government decided to sell off its big phone company, Telmex, Carlos Slim bought it. Many people thought it was a risky move. Phones were still pretty clunky, and not everyone had one, but he believed that if he made phones more affordable and easier to get, everyone would want one. And he was right. He worked to expand the phone lines, bringing service to places that never had it. He made it simpler for ordinary families to get a phone in their homes. Think about a time when a new video game console comes out, and it's super expensive and hard to find. Only a few kids get one. But then, over time, the price drops, and it becomes easier to buy. Soon, almost everyone has one. Carlos Slim did that, but with something far more important than a game connection. He built an empire not just on wires and signals, but on the simple, powerful desire people have to talk to each other, to share news, to hear a loved one's voice. And that's why it matters. His wealth grew because he met a fundamental need, connecting millions of people and making their lives, in a small but profound way, less lonely and more connected to the world around them. It's a reminder that true value often comes from helping others connect. Connecting people. Getting rich voiceover. Have you ever wondered why some people become truly wealthy? It's often not just about hard work or being super smart. Many times it comes down to something simpler, yet incredibly powerful. Connecting people. Our world is full of amazing ideas, useful things, and talented people. But sometimes, these are separated. The truly rich often act like human bridges. They see a need, and they see someone who can fill it. Then, they bring them together. They create ways for goods to travel, information to spread, or services to reach people. For ages, this was the secret to growth. Ancient trade routes, like the Silk Road, didn't just move goods. They connected civilizations, sharing knowledge, art, and new ways of thinking. Cities grew rich, not just from resources, but as meeting points where cultures met. Think of how nerves connect your brain to your body. If one part is cut off, the system suffers. When everything connects, signals flow, and amazing things happen. Today, this idea is everywhere. A social media app doesn't make anything physical, yet it connects millions of friends, families, and strangers. It lets you share thoughts, art, questions, and find others who care. The creators got rich by building invisible pathways between hearts and minds. So, real wealth isn't just about money. It's about seeing the threads that weave us closer. It's about the quiet power of connection. We all become richer finding ways to truly be together, even when apart. That's a deep abundance, one that truly lasts. Jeff Bezos's wild ride to the top. Have you ever had a small idea, a tiny thought that felt exciting, but also a little scary? Something so simple, yet it held a huge dream inside it. Imagine that feeling, but for a business that would change how the world shops. That's a bit like Jeff Bezos's story with Amazon. It started as a whisper of a possibility in a world that wasn't quite ready for it. Back in the early 1990s, the internet was still new. It was like a wild, open frontier, full of unknowns. Most people didn't really get it. They saw a confusing mess of wires and screens. But Jeff Bezos saw something different. He saw a quiet chance, a path to sell books online. Just books. It seems like a simple plan, right? But here's the thing. He wasn't just thinking about selling one book, but every book easily accessible to anyone with a computer. He started in his garage, a regular guy with a bold idea and just a few employees. It was a massive gamble. He could have failed, lost everything he had invested, and that takes a kind of quiet courage. But the spark of an idea, paired with a lot of hard work and that bravery, can light an incredible fire. Think about a small seed you plant. You might not see much at first. It's just dirt and a tiny speck, almost invisible. But with careful nurturing, water, and time, that seed pushes through the soil. It grows into a seedling, then a plant, and maybe even a towering tree, providing shade and fruit for many. Amazon was like that seed. It grew, not just into a bookstore, but into a place where you could buy almost anything, delivered right to your door. Jeff Bezos' deep belief in that small seed, that tiny online bookstore, allowed it to grow into something nobody could have imagined. He faced doubts, hard times, and countless challenges, the kind that would make many others give up. But he kept pushing, always looking for what was next, listening to what people needed. His journey reminds us that even the biggest companies, the most influential people, can start with just one person's quiet courage and a belief in an idea that others might not understand yet. It teaches us about the power of seeing possibility where others see only blank space or confusion. It's a calm reflection that sometimes the wildest rides to the top begin with the softest, most hopeful whispers of a dream planted in uncertain soil. What happens when you invent the future? Have you ever stopped to wonder, really wonder, what it feels like to create something that wasn't there before? Not just building a new Lego set, but inventing a whole new way of living. Imagine being the person who thinks up something so completely new, it changes everything for everyone. That's what it means to invent the future. It's about seeing a possibility no one else can see. It's like standing on a lonely peak, glimpsing a vast, uncharted valley that will one day become a bustling city. These aren't just clever ideas. Here's the thing. They are huge shifts in how we live, connect, and understand the world. Think about the first person to harness electricity. Before that, nights were truly dark. Homes lit by candles. Life moved slower, confined by the sun. But then, an invention, a spark, a wire, a bulb. Suddenly, people could work, read, and gather long after sunset. The world became brighter, literally and figuratively. It reshaped cities, factories, and family life. And here's what I found about those moments. They often create so much wealth for the inventor. When you introduce something so essential, something that makes life easier or better, everyone wants it. People need it. It's like finding clean water in a dry desert. Before, people drank muddy water or went thirsty. Now, you offer clear, endless water. Of course, people will value that deeply, not just with money, but with their daily habits and their entire way of life. This helps us understand why some inventors became so rich. It's a strange and powerful feeling, I think, to know you've set the world on a new path. It's more than just being rich. It's about touching every single person's life, even generations after you're gone. It leaves a quiet kind of echo in time. It's a reminder that one person's dream, one wild idea, can truly reshape the human story. And it makes you wonder what unseen future is waiting for us, just around the corner, waiting to be dreamed up by someone brave enough to look. Larry Ellison, Oracle's software genius. Have you ever thought about all the information that exists in the world? Every name, every number, every single piece of data on Earth. It's like an endless ocean, right? For most of history, people just stored information in books or on paper. But as computers came along, suddenly there was a new problem. How do you organize all that digital data so it makes sense? That's where someone like Larry Ellison stepped in. Larry Ellison saw that companies, big and small, needed a super smart way to keep track of their stuff. Think about your favorite online store, or your school's records, or even just your contacts list on your phone. All of these things rely on something called a database. It's like a highly organized digital filing cabinet where everything is neatly put away and easy to find when you need it. Larry and his company, Oracle, built the biggest, best filing cabinets for the whole world. Here's the thing. Knowing where your information is, and being able to access it quickly, gives you immense power. It's like how a well-organized backpack makes your school day easier, compared to a jumbled mess where you can't find your pencil. Ellison understood this on a massive scale. He figured out that if businesses could manage their data perfectly, they could make better decisions, faster. This idea of organizing digital knowledge wasn't just a technical fix. It became a cornerstone of how the modern world runs. His vision was quietly profound, building the invisible backbone for so much of our daily lives. So, when we think about how someone becomes incredibly wealthy, it's often not just about selling a product. Sometimes, it's about seeing a fundamental need that no one else truly understood, and then building the essential tools that everyone eventually relies on. It makes you wonder about the quiet ideas, the subtle shifts that actually shape our world the most. Building tech empires from scratch. Have you ever stopped to think about where our digital world truly began? Not with giant factories or endless gold mines, but often with just a single thought, a quiet what if. Imagine a person sitting alone, seeing a problem no one else understood, or dreaming of a new way to connect people. Some of the wealthiest people in history didn't inherit their riches. Instead, They spun entire new worlds out of nothing more than an idea, and the pure, persistent will to make it real. Here's the thing. For centuries, great wealth usually came from owning vast lands, precious metals, or powerful armies. But then, a different kind of fortune started to grow. It came from people who looked at the everyday and saw a different way, a brighter path. They built what we now call tech empires, not with bricks and mortar, but with lines of code, clever designs, and a deep understanding of what people might need tomorrow. Think of it like this. Imagine a single tiny seed, dropped into the earth. It seems small, almost insignificant on its own, right? But what if that seed held the blueprint for a towering oak tree? What if someone meticulously nurtured it, providing water and light, protecting it from storms, watching it grow leaf by tiny leaf? Building a tech company is kind of like that. Someone has an initial idea, maybe how to make communicating easier across vast distances, or how to organize all the world's scattered information. It starts small, often in a garage or a dorm room, fueled by late nights and strong belief. They keep working at it, adding new parts, solving tricky problems, until it becomes something huge that millions of people rely on every day. And that's why it matters. It teaches us something profound about the human spirit. It shows that even the biggest, most influential companies started as a humble spark in someone's mind, a tiny dream in a quiet room. It's a gentle reminder that true value can emerge from pure thought, from dedication, and from daring to build the future you believe in, one small step at a time. It's a lesson that what seems impossible today might just be waiting for your own unique idea to bring it to life. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's young billionaire. Have you ever stopped to think about how one single idea, started by someone not much older than your high school siblings, could change the world forever and make them incredibly rich? We're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. He created Facebook. He didn't inherit his money. He built something billions of people now use every single day. Here's the thing. Before Facebook, connecting with friends felt harder. You'd call them, or maybe email. But then, Facebook came along, first for college students, then for everyone. It was a place to share pictures, tell people what you were doing, and see what was happening in friends' lives. It felt amazing, like everyone was suddenly in the same room, even when miles apart. This simple human need to connect is ancient, as old as people gathering around a fire to share stories. Facebook just gave us a new, glowing fire, lit by computer screens. Think of it like this. Imagine tossing a small pebble into a calm pond. It makes a tiny ripple. But what if that pebble was so interesting that every time it touched the water, another pebble appeared, each making its own ripples? Soon, the entire pond would be covered in waves. That's a bit like Facebook. One person joined, then invited friends, and those friends invited more, until it became this giant wave of connection, touching almost every corner of the globe. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? To create something so big, something that changes how we talk, share, and even see ourselves. What does it feel like to hold that kind of impact? It's a lot of power, a lot of influence. And here's the thing. Sometimes, the simplest desire to feel connected can lead to the most extraordinary things, and some of the greatest fortunes. It's a quiet thought about what we build, and what it means for all of us. Changing how we talk, changing his bank account. Have you ever stopped to wonder if a simple idea, a new way of talking, could make someone unbelievably rich? It sounds strange, right? We often think of wealth coming from gold mines or vast lands, but sometimes, the biggest fortunes aren't dug from the ground. They grow from human connection. Here's the thing. History shows us that when people find a new, better way to communicate or share ideas, the person who makes that possible often becomes incredibly wealthy. It's not just about a clever invention, but about changing the very fabric of how we interact. Think about the quiet power in words, the way they shape our understanding and bring us together. For centuries, philosophers and storytellers knew the power of ideas. But what if those ideas were packaged in a brand new way, one that touched millions? Imagine a new online game, for example. Before it existed, no one talked quite like this, or shared experiences in this exact way, building virtual worlds together. But then someone created it. Suddenly, millions of players were spending hours in this new digital space, chatting, strategizing, and making friends. That game didn't just entertain, it created a new kind of social language. It changed how countless friends connected after school, and the person who imagined that new language, that new way to belong, Their bank account quietly swelled, not because they owned a factory, but because they understood something deeper about human connection. It's a quiet, profound impact. Not all wealth comes from grand empires or battles. Some of the richest people in history simply found a new channel for the human voice, a new way for hearts to connect. Their true genius was seeing how a shift in communication could reshape our world. And in doing so, they found a quiet, powerful path to immense riches. The Koch brothers, industries and influence. Have you ever thought about how some people can shape the very air we breathe? Not just with inventions, but with ideas, with whispers. We often talk about the richest people, but sometimes the greatest influence comes from a quiet, steady push, felt across decades. The Koch brothers, Charles and David, were incredibly wealthy. Their money didn't come from apps or gadgets. Instead, it grew from deep roots in essential industries: oil, gas, chemicals. Imagine owning the very building blocks of our modern world. That's the power their company, Koch Industries, held. But here's the thing, their influence stretched far beyond their businesses. They believed deeply in certain ideas, like less government involvement and more freedom for companies. They used vast wealth to spread these ideas. They built a powerful network of groups, like an invisible web spun with money, designed to share their view of the world. It's a bit like this. Imagine your school's student council election. If one group had enough money to buy all the posters, pay for rallies, and put ads on social media, wouldn't their voice be much louder? The Koch brothers used their wealth to make their ideas heard. They funded campaigns and supported politicians. Their voices became dominant in big talks about taxes and environmental rules. This isn't about judging beliefs. It's about understanding how immense wealth can create a lasting ripple, shaping society in ways most of us never see. Power isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's a quiet, persistent force, asking us to think about who truly guides our world, and what responsibility comes with such a powerful voice. Family business, massive money. Have you ever stopped to wonder how some families manage to hold on to massive amounts of wealth, not just for one person's lifetime, but for generations, even centuries? Here's the thing. It's often about more than just one super smart person making a fortune. It's about something called a family business, but not always in the way we think of a store down the street. Imagine someone long ago planted a small, strong seed. That seed wasn't left to grow wild. Instead, it was carefully tended, watered, and its fruits were replanted by children, and then their children. This is how immense wealth can grow, slowly, steadily, like an ancient forest rooting deep into history. For most of history, real power and money were not just personal achievements. They were tied to your family name, your land, or a specific skill your ancestors mastered. Think of kingdoms where the king's son became king, or a skilled craft, like making beautiful silks, passed from parent to child. It wasn't just a job, it was a legacy that could build an empire, not always with armies, but with trade, goods, or clever money management. It's a bit like a family garden. One generation plants a few tomato seeds, the next generation harvests those tomatoes, saves the very best seeds, and then plants an even bigger, better patch. Learning from what worked before. They don't start from scratch. They build on the good soil, the practical knowledge, and the established system their parents left them. So, the garden gets bigger and more fruitful with each passing season, becoming something truly impressive. This idea, this passing of wealth and power through generations, carries a lot of weight. It's not just about numbers on a page. It's the quiet echo of countless decisions, dreams, and sacrifices made by people who lived long ago. It shows us how one person's choices can set a path that shapes the lives of many, for centuries to come. It makes you think about the responsibilities that come with such a deep-rooted legacy, doesn't it? Li Ka-shing, Hong Kong's business legend. Have you ever wondered how someone can start with almost nothing, just a few hopes, and end up shaping the very skyline of a city? That's the incredible story of Li Ka-shing, a name that echoes through Hong Kong like a quiet legend. He didn't begin with powerful family connections or a silver spoon. His journey started in a tough place, a time of deep struggle. Imagine Hong Kong right after World War II. It was a city trying to stand up again, full of people with dreams but also immense hardship. Li Ka-shing arrived there as a young teenager, a refugee from mainland China. Having faced the deep sorrow of losing his father, he had to stop school, giving up his childhood to help his family survive. For him, Money wasn't about getting rich. It was about putting food on the table, about sheer endurance. He started small, selling plastic flowers. Think about that. Simple, artificial flowers. But he saw more than plastic. He saw a possibility, a future in every tiny petal. He built a small factory, then began to buy land. Bit by bit, he built homes, shops, and entire businesses. It's like planting a tiny seed in barren ground, and through endless effort, watching it grow into a massive, sprawling forest, touching every part of life in Hong Kong. Each step was like adding another root dot. It's a lot like building with LEGOs. You start with a few blocks, maybe just an idea. It can seem overwhelming, but you don't give up. You connect one piece, then another. Even when you make mistakes, slowly, you build something truly incredible, much grander than you first imagined. Li Koshing built his empire in much the same way, connecting opportunities with quiet, powerful determination. So, his immense wealth wasn't just numbers on a page. It was a testament to an extraordinary human spirit, to seeing hope where others saw only hardship. It reminds us that true strength comes not from what we are given, but from what we build with our own hands, day by day, with courage and an unyielding belief in tomorrow. His life whispers a profound truth, the power of a human heart that simply refuses to give up. A man who bought half a city could, you imagine owning half your entire town, not just your house, but stores, parks, even schools. Sounds like a story, right? Yet, long ago in ancient Rome, a man named Marcus Licinius Crassus got pretty close. He was incredibly rich. So rich he owned huge parts of the city. Here's the thing about ancient Rome. It was built mostly of wood. Fires happened often. They spread fast, destroying whole neighborhoods. People lost everything. Crassus saw a way to profit from this disaster. He had his own private fire brigade. These were trained men, like firefighters today. But they didn't put out fires for free. Imagine your home burning, everything turning to ash. You're scared, desperate, watching your life disappear. Then Crassus's men arrive. They wouldn't start helping until the homeowner, standing in the smoke, agreed to sell their burning property, and sometimes nearby lands too. Crassus for a super low price. It's like someone offering to help clean your room, but only if you sold them your favorite toy first. Unfair, right? Once the deal was sealed, his firefighters got to work. They'd put out the fire, and Crassus would own the land. He'd rebuild with better buildings and rent them out. Human sadness became his biggest moneymaker. This story makes you think, doesn't it? Extreme wealth can sometimes come from other people's worst moments. It makes us ask, what does owning something truly mean? Is it just having the paper, or is there a deeper human cost? What kind of mark does that leave? Ma Watang Tencent's digital world. Have you ever stopped to truly think about how much of our lives now happen inside a screen? It's like we live in two worlds, the physical one, and the vast, invisible digital one. Here's the thing. One person, Ma Watang, often called Pony Ma, helped build one of the biggest digital worlds with his company. It's a place where billions of people connect, share, and live their online lives every single day. Imagine building an entire city, not out of bricks, but out of computer code. That's what Ma Watang created. He didn't just make one popular app. He built a whole network, a massive ecosystem. Think about how a huge tree sends out roots, connecting everything underground. Tencent did something similar, creating platforms central to how countless people live, work, and find joy in many parts of the world. It's a quiet power, isn't it? A deep, unseen influence shaping our daily interactions. Take WeChat for instance, one of Tencent's creations. It's far more than just a messaging app. It's like having your phone's entire system, plus all your social media and payment apps, folded into one tool. You can chat, video call, pay for lunch, play games, and read news, all without leaving WeChat. It's a bustling digital town square, a whole universe tucked into your pocket. This isn't just about convenience. It's about how deeply connected we become to these digital spaces. It feels personal, almost an extension of who we are. This makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the quiet builders of our modern lives, the people who create vast systems holding so much of our daily experience and memories. Their immense wealth isn't just money. It's in the countless human connections they make possible, the shared moments they allow. It's a powerful reminder that the biggest empires aren't built with grand gestures, but with a simple tap on a screen, bringing people closer, or subtly changing how they are apart. Making apps that billions use. Making apps that billions use. Have you ever truly stopped to think about what it feels like to create something so vital, so useful, that billions of people worldwide interact with it? Every single day, we're talking about apps, those tiny icons on your phone. Imagine, someone, somewhere, had a simple idea, an idea to make life smoother, more fun, or simply more connected. Because that idea was genuinely good, truly helpful, billions chose to use it. Every tap, every swipe, it all quietly adds up. That's how immense wealth grows today. It's not one big sale, but countless small moments of shared value. For much of history, great fortunes came from land, gold, or armies. Today, a different power exists. It's the quiet strength of an idea that spreads everywhere, touching everyone. Think of the printing press centuries ago. Books were rare, knowledge a luxury. The press made learning accessible, changing the world. Apps do something similar, but instantly, across borders, they connect us in ways ancestors only dreamed. This wealth shows more than money. It reflects how many lives your creation softly impacts. Consider a simple messaging app you use daily. You text friends, share photos. This app began as a quiet thought. It wasn't perfect, but it met a strong need to talk to anyone, anywhere. It's like a single drop of water falling into a vast, still lake. That one drop creates ripples that gently spread to every shore. That small app became a bridge for billions to communicate. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how one person's quiet curiosity, their gentle wish to solve a small problem, can bloom into something so vast it reshapes how we all live. It's a soft reminder that true value often sits not just in what you own, but in the connections you nurture, the quiet difficulties you ease, and the everyday ways you make our world feel a little smaller, a little closer. This richness reflects a shared human spirit woven into our digital existence. Mukesh Ambani, India's richest man. Have you ever truly considered what it means to be the richest person in an entire country? In India, a nation home to over 1 billion souls, that person is Mukesh Ambani. His name might not echo globally, but his company, Reliance Industries, deeply touches almost every Indian life. It's a vast business, spanning oil, chemicals, phones, retail, and digital. For centuries, fortunes were built on land or trade, their riches visible as grand palaces. But today, the biggest wealth often comes from connecting people, providing services as vital as water. Ambani's company brought cheap mobile internet to millions across India. Imagine a small village. Students suddenly access online lessons. Families talk across continents. His company made that connection possible for countless people, quietly changing daily lives. It's a staggering thought, isn't it? To be at the heart of such a giant web, influencing millions. This kind of wealth isn't just about personal luxury. It's about immense power, and with that, a profound responsibility. When you lead a company so deeply woven into a nation's fabric, every major choice carries a heavy weight. It can shape futures, spark dreams, or even widen societal gaps, leaving a lasting mark. Looking at Mukesh Ambani is more than seeing a number. It's a story of building a modern empire, one brick, one digital link, one oil barrel at a time. It makes you wonder, what does it feel like to hold so much, to be so connected to a nation's pulse? Maybe true wealth is less about what you own, and more about the invisible threads you've woven, quietly shaping the world. Energy, telecom, and big Indian business. Have you ever stopped to really think about the invisible threads that connect our lives? The electricity buzzing in your walls, letting you charge your phone and see in the dark. The phone itself, allowing you to instantly talk to a friend miles away. These aren't just convenient things. They're the lifeblood of our modern world. And here's the thing, for some people in history, controlling these vital connections became the source of unbelievable wealth. Imagine a time when the world was just starting to light up with electricity, or when the first phone calls crackled across vast distances. The individuals and companies that built those power plants, laid those cables, and connected those first calls weren't just running businesses. They were shaping the very future. They were like the gatekeepers to a brand new way of living. And because everyone eventually needed what they offered, their fortunes grew beyond measure. It wasn't just about selling a product. It was about providing something absolutely essential, something people couldn't live without once they experienced it. Here's an example. Think about the internet today. What if only one company could give you access to it? You'd probably pay almost anything, right? That's how powerful these early energy and telecom giants were. In places like India, too, a few powerful families understood this truth early on. They built empires around these basic needs, not just for power and light, but for everything from vast industries to connecting a sprawling nation by phone. They saw the future and grabbed hold of it, linking millions of lives to their services. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of responsibility comes with owning the very pulse of a nation, or even a big chunk of the world's daily rhythm? It's more than just money. It's a profound influence over how people live, work, and communicate. Their wealth wasn't just numbers in a bank account. It was woven into the fabric of everyday existence for countless souls. It's a quiet power, but one that touches everything. Francois Pinault, art, fashion, and riches. Have you ever looked at an old painting or a designer dress and wondered why it could be worth millions? It seems like just fabric or paint, right? But sometimes, a single person sees something others don't. Francois Pinault is one of those people. He saw the deep, lasting value in beauty, in craftsmanship, and in the stories behind things. He built a huge fortune, not just by selling things, but by understanding what truly moves people. Think about your favorite special jacket or unique pair of shoes. It's not just about keeping you warm. It has a certain magic that makes you feel good. Pinault felt that same magic in famous fashion houses like Gucci and Balenciaga, and in priceless works of art. He invested in them, nurtured them, and helped them grow, seeing them as more than just businesses. They were expressions of human creativity, echoes of our shared history. For centuries, people have been drawn to beauty. Ancient kings collected jewels, and Renaissance artists painted masterpieces for wealthy families. It's part of what makes us human, this desire to surround ourselves with things that inspire awe or tell a story. Pinault understood this deep human connection. Here's the thing, he saw art and luxury fashion as something that lasts, something that connects generations. It's like when you find an old photo of your grandparents, and suddenly, a whole world opens up. That picture holds meaning far beyond the paper it's printed on. So he became a master at collecting these treasures, both for business and for his own heart. He knew that the true richness isn't just in the money something costs, but in the beauty it holds, and the way it speaks to our souls. His life shows us that seeing real value often means looking beyond the surface, finding the quiet power in creativity. It makes you think, doesn't it? What hidden beauty might be right in front of us, if only we learn to truly see it. Collecting masterpieces and making money. Have you ever wondered why an old painting or ancient jewel can be worth more than an entire town? It feels strange, right? That a single object, a canvas or a polished stone, could hold so much power and money. But for centuries, the wealthiest didn't just gather gold or build businesses. They collected beauty. They saw deep value in rare art, in breathtaking sculptures, in books so old they felt like whispers from the past. Think about kings and queens long ago. To show their power, or simply keep their wealth safe, they often didn't use banks. Instead, they filled their palaces with the most exquisite things, stunning paintings by famous artists, diamond necklaces sparkling like tiny stars, or handwritten letters from important figures. These weren't just decorations, they were a beautiful, silent form of money. If times got tough, a war needing funds, or a kingdom facing famine, these precious items could be sold. They were a secret treasure chest, filled with history and human genius. It's like having a super rare sneaker, or a first edition comic. At first, you love it because it's cool, but as years pass, fewer exist, and more people want it. Its value shoots up. It's still just a sneaker or a comic, but its story, its rarity, and how much others desire it, make it powerful. It's the same idea, but on a grander scale, with priceless art and historical treasures. But this isn't just about money. There's a deeper feeling involved. It's about the human desire to hold on to beauty, to keep the past alive, and to connect with something grand and lasting. These objects tell stories, not just of the artists, but of every person who admired, owned, and kept them safe for centuries. It makes you think, what do we cherish today? What everyday things do we find so beautiful or important that they might one day become priceless treasures, carrying our stories into the future? It's a quiet wonder how an object can hold so much history, human longing, and worth all at once. Michael Dell. Computers in every home. Have you ever stopped to think about how normal it is to see a computer everywhere? Like right now, you probably have one nearby your phone, a laptop, or a desktop. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, having a computer at home felt like science fiction. They were big, clunky, and cost a fortune, mostly used by huge companies or scientists. Then came Michael Dell. He had a really clear vision, this quiet belief that computers shouldn't be mysterious, expensive giants. He imagined them in every single home, on every desk, a tool for everyone. And here's the thing, he found a way to make it happen. Instead of selling computers through stores, he sold them directly to you. This cut out extra costs, making computers much more affordable. It was like taking a secret key that only a few people had, and making copies for everyone. Think about a small seed. It doesn't look like much, but inside it holds the blueprint for a giant tree. Michael Dell's idea was a bit like that seed. It started small, a simple way of doing business, but it grew into something huge. It changed the landscape of our daily lives. This wasn't just about selling boxes of metal and wires. It was about opening up a whole new world of information, connection, and possibility for millions. It made learning easier, communication faster, and just made the world feel a little bit smaller, in a good way. And that's why it matters. It reminds us that sometimes the biggest changes come from someone just asking, what if everyone could have this? It's a gentle reminder that simply giving access to tools can profoundly shape our world and how we live. It's about the silent power of making things possible for more of us. Building a PC empire, piece by piece. Have you ever wondered how someone builds something truly huge, something that changes the world? Like a whole computer empire. It feels impossible to just start something that big. But here's the thing, it rarely begins with one giant jump. Instead, it's often about tiny, careful choices, one after another, fitting together like a puzzle. Imagine you have no picture on the box, just scattered pieces. You have to figure out how they connect. Think about the people who became incredibly wealthy by making the first personal computers. They didn't wake up one morning with a huge factory and thousands of employees. Many started in a garage or a college dorm room with just a few ideas and a lot of passion. They saw a small need, a gap in what people could do, and they worked to fill it. This way of building, step by step, has been around forever. It's how ancient builders created massive pyramids or grand castles. Each stone, each small decision, was vital. Together, they made something incredible. It's kind of like learning to play the guitar. You don't just pick it up and play a whole song perfectly. You start with one chord, then you learn another. You practice scales, you mess up a lot, but each small step, each note you finally get right, slowly builds up, and over time, all those tiny wins turn into a real skill. It's those small, steady efforts that make big things happen. So this idea of building something piece by piece tells us something deep. It shows that even the biggest achievements, even the largest fortunes, often come from patient, small actions. It reminds us that the grandest visions begin with just one simple idea, one humble start. And sometimes, the most powerful and lasting things in our world grow from the quietest beginnings. Every small effort really does count, like planting a single seed that can one day become a mighty tree. Phil Knight, Nike's running start. Have you ever felt a quiet stirring inside you? A deep belief that something could be better, even if no one else saw it yet? For Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, that feeling began with a pair of running shoes. Back in the 1960s, shoes weren't what they are today. They were often heavy, uncomfortable, not truly designed for runners. They were just shoes. Phil was a runner himself. He knew the feeling of miles beneath his feet, the rhythm of running. He understood shoes weren't just about covering distance, they were part of the runner's soul. He had this powerful idea. What if shoes could truly help you run faster, further, with less strain? It wasn't about money. It was a deep conviction in the potential of every stride, a belief that athletes deserved better. So here's what happened. He didn't wait for permission or a big investment. He started small, fueled by that internal fire. He literally sold shoes out of the trunk of his green Plymouth Valiant. Imagine selling shoes from his car trunk, a mix of hope and uncertainty. No fancy stores or big ads, just him, his shoes, and an unwavering belief. It's like when you pour your heart into a school project. You might not have all the fancy supplies, but your passion makes it shine. This story reminds us that greatness doesn't always burst forth fully formed. It begins with a single, uncertain step, driven by quiet passion. It's about seeing a simple need, having the courage, staying true to that quiet voice inside you, Sometimes, the most important race isn't about the finish line, it's about the bravery of making that first running start. And that beginning, that act of faith, can change everything. Just do it and get rich. Have you ever had a brilliant idea? Something that truly felt exciting and important, but it just stayed a thought in your head. Maybe a new club for school, a story you wanted to write, or even a simple project around the house. We all have these moments. But here's the thing. The biggest difference between someone who dreams of great things and someone who actually achieves them is often just one simple choice. They start, they do it. Don't think about the people we admire, those who built empires or changed the world. Were they just thinkers? No, they were doers. From ancient philosophers like Aristotle, who taught that we learn by doing, to the inventors and business leaders of more recent times, they all knew that action is the real magic. It's not just about having a great plan. It's about taking the first step, then the next, and the next. Imagine you're trying to build the most amazing, complex Lego castle you can think of. You can stare at the instruction book all day, picturing every tower and wall. You can even talk about how cool it will be, but until you actually reach out, pick up the first 2 bricks, and snap them together, that castle exists only in your imagination. It remains just a dream, silent and unbuilt. The same goes for nearly everything else. That first connection, that initial piece put into place, is where everything truly begins. It takes courage to start, especially when you can't see the whole path. There's a quiet strength in just beginning, in letting go of the fear of failure, and simply taking that first small action. It's a powerful decision, an act of trust in yourself and your journey. And sometimes, that one small step is all it takes to unlock a future you never thought possible.